We're live.
We're doing it live.
No, you're live. I'm live. We're live. You say I look disheveled?
A little bit.
It's not a new hoodie.
Yeah, it's the weekend. Whatever. Right?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a Saturday edition of Two Real Live, where we usually do it to keep up with the immense load of shit to talk about.
Yeah.
Before we get started, I just want to say that these Epstein files are crazy, man. And
we are learning so much about people
crazy.
who wanted us to believe that they weren't pigs.
Bill Gates is gnarly.
Yeah.
Gnarly. There's so many of them.
I don't even want to spend much time talking about it because we have a lot to get through today. But Brett Ratner is someone that we were learning a lot about.
Yeah, that picture
Bill
of him.
Gates.
That picture of him where, he and Epstein are in a little hug sandwich with this, what looks to be a very young girl.
It looks to be two victims because their faces are blacked out.
Fucked up, bro. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Anywho.
It's pretty weird. It's a pretty weird time.
Absolutely. The worst people are in charge of everything, it seems.
Yeah, insanity. Okay, well, actually, I had a couple other things, and then I was going to, let's just get to work. First of all, I do want to say some thanks. I'm just going to send out some thanks to some people who got with the, who helped us out on the Patreon. No Two Trolls. Somebody who I think is staying anonymous. So thank you, Anonymous. And then Our Scientist. Thank you, Our Scientist.
I like the secret supporter. That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's a secret supporter.
Big fan of that.
Yeah. And then I'm not going to use their name because I don't think that's the right thing to do because I don't know if they want their name used. Stacy is here, and Stacy uses her name, and she also is on our Patreon.
Wonderful.
So that's exciting. I'm so excited about it.
Thanks,
Let me tell you. I'm so excited about the Patreon in so many different ways. We are going to make content for the Patreon.
Are you
100%.
Are you going to address the finger?
Oh, why we're a little late is because I cut myself shaving.
No.
Oh, I cut myself washing my knife. Deep, too.
Yeah.
It's a deep one. It's like the deepest one I've had in years and years and years. I cut myself with my knives regularly.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're a cook.
But this time I was like kind of washing my knife and I was thinking, where's Angela?
I know.
Went running to Angela.
I just got a giant box of Band-Aids because you're always cutting your fingers all the time.
I cut my fingers a lot. It's Julianne. I'm actually very good. I'm very good. My knife works good. And
I'm amazed you don't cut yourself more often. That's why I stay away from your knives.
I mostly only cut myself when I'm cleaning up. Because my fucking mind goes sailing off into directions and you know what I mean? Oh Lord. Anyway, I have so much exciting things planned for the Patreon. I'm waiting for my keyboard, and as soon as my keyboard comes, I got to heal up. But I'm just not gonna be able to type very fast. But as soon as my keyboard comes, I'm going to start the second edition of Too Real, and the way that's going to work, just so people are going. I'm going to be able to I'm going to go live every day while I write, and while I also read out loud because I'm going to be reading for the purposes of the rewrite and for the purposes of recording for an audio version of the book. I'm not calling it the audio book because I'm holding out hope that we're going to be able to do it the way we more or less envision it, which is to cast an entire, to bring a cast to bear and kick ass with a cast. That would be so fun. But before we're able to do that, that's going to cost money. While we're building up, I want to build an audio version of the book. And so if you subscribe to the writing room, you can attend the live sessions of the writing, and the live sessions of the writing are going to be cool because I'm going to talk through all my changes. I'm going to read them out loud. I'm going to talk about them. I'm going to rationalize them. I'm basically going to be turning them into learning moments. And so if you're interested in learning about, or just expanding your thought process on writing, this is definitely going to happen, and it's going to be really fucking cool. So check it out at the Patreon. Link is in the description. Obviously, like and subscribe and do all those things to help us grow. Let's get to work. Thank you guys for. I'm gonna have these little pitches in the beginning now, because we're I got to get serious about growing this fucking thing.
Yeah, I don't know whether they belong in the beginning.
Whatever. I'll tell you. We'll discuss that later.
We can have a commercial break, like in the middle, maybe, or near the end, maybe.
Yeah, and I'll say that some of the growth that we're experiencing isn't growth that we're seeing in subscribers, but rather like in views. Like our views are up, substantially, and our and so in fact, statistically across the board, we're up. Besides subscriptions.
M. Sarada is with us. Said Dale's so sharp he has self-inflicted wounds.
Yeah, I do indeed.
And then
so many
people are complaining about your thumbnail.
Why? What?
Deanne said that pic is super creepy.
Yeah,
of
it is.
Justin Baldoni.
It is. Should I change it right now?
Whoa, jump scare.
Yeah. Let's see who it tracks. I'm interested in who it
Archival
attracts.
Raccoon says he kind of looks like a seal in that picture.
I know. I could not resist it.
And then Hinata said that Baldoni picture on the cover of the live. Ugh.
It's so.
She spelled out. Ugh. It's EEEUGH.
Fantastic. Hey, listen, man.
Hinata said that's the one that I used to call him a creep.
There you go. Well, we'll just see who it attracts. Look, what's interesting about it, I'm looking at it now.
I had that same reaction. You
Yeah,
guys.
Angela was like, "You can't do that," and I'm like, "I'm doing it."
Thank you.
It's so bad, but she was like, and you were having like a visceral reaction, and I was like, "This is the point.
You see my point exactly.
This is the point. This is what I'm doing. You are reinforcing my decision here to post that pic."
Congratulations, you grossed everyone out, just like you wanted to.
I'm so excited about it.
Okay, so we left off in the deposition where he was asking about, let's see. He's starting this new topic. Oh, he was talking about the voice note, I guess. Okay, anyway, whatever. Page 99 of the Gottlieb Day. Okay?
Yes.
Gottlieb is the attorney for Blake Lively questioning Justin Baldoni. Okay?
Yeah.
He asks, did there ever come a time during August of 2024 where you learned that there was a woman on TikTok alleging that you invited her up to your hotel room years ago and some incident that occurred alongside that? I know we touched on this already, but
Before you start,
what do you mean?
Because there's some chat we got to just deal with because Deanne's right. Because the Patreon is the crew, right?
Oh my God.
Like this is the crew, and she's
we
like,
have to get started.
Crew shirts. We got to get the crew shirts.
Okay, but
So I'm going to get you.
about-
You got to get working on that.
me?
Yeah, you.
No, I am not a designer. I do not design.
You are now.
Okay.
I anoint you.
Do you want to do what we came here to do today, or do you want to do something else?
Shut up.
Okay.
Go.
Baldoni says, I think I heard about that in Miss Lively's complaint. But Baldoni says, I have no memory of that. Gottlieb asked him, so nobody had told you about that in August 2024. He said, I have no memory of that. And Gottlieb's question is, you have no memory of discussing with anyone at Wayfair, anyone at Tag, or with Miss Abel, or a social media post alleging that you had invited some girl up to your hotel room years ago. And Baldoni says, like I said, I believe I heard about it for the first time reading her CRD complaint. And what that means is that it's in text messages with his publicists. So the publicists are discussing it. That's how you would have heard about it, in the CRD complaint. Okay?
Yeah.
Because it's not material to her case.
Right.
Baldoni continues, but if you have anything that can refresh my memory, I'm happy to look at it, and then he trails off.
Like I do.
Yes. Have you reviewed that post since the filing of Miss Lively's lawsuit? And Baldoni says, I have never seen it. Do you have any idea what this woman is alleging? And Baldoni says, from what I've been made aware since then, that I invited her to a hotel room. And Gottlieb says, do you know whether that occurred or not? And Baldoni says, I have never invited a woman to a hotel room that wasn't my wife. Gottlieb says, have you ever invited a woman to a hotel room before you were married? And he said, no. Never? You sure?
He's saying that?
Yes.
Oh!
And Baldoni says, I wish I was that confident before I was married to invite a woman up to his hotel room.
Yo,
Question.
You want to come up to my hotel room?
Yeah, I don't know that.
We have hot dogs.
I mean, in his memoir, before he was married, it didn't seem like he had many occasions to have a hotel room.
He apparently didn't take no for an answer, and he's too afraid to ask somebody to come up to a room?
Oh, I guess he was working on a show. Maybe he had hotel rooms then. Okay, whatever. I wish I was that confident before I was married. Gottlieb asks, so the answer to my question is, you are sure that prior to your marriage and after your marriage, you have never invited a woman in any circumstance, in any capacity, up to a hotel room that you were staying in? And Baldoni says, I am sure that before I was married or while being married, I have never invited a woman up to a hotel room that I was staying in. Gottlieb said, okay, who's Shane Norman? Baldoni says, presumably not the woman that you're talking about right now.
No, he's the one that you discriminated against and then retaliated. But
Gottlieb is unfazed. Who is Shane Norman?
Yeah.
And Baldoni says, Shane Norman is a former employee of...
He just repeated?
Yes.
He just said, shut up and keep going?
Who is Shane Norman? Presumably not the woman that you're talking about right now. And he goes, who is Shane Norman? Baldoni says, Shane Norman is a former employee of Wayfair Entertainment. And that was a part of the allegation in his lawsuit, was that he was hired under Wayfair Entertainment, and then they immediately started Wayfair Studios and started funding Wayfair Studios, no longer funding the entity that Shane Norman was hired under.
Yeah.
And he alleged that was some shady dealings.
Sounds shady.
Question. And Wayfair Entertainment was a predecessor company to Wayfair Studios? And Baldoni says correct. And what was your role with respect to Wayfair Entertainment? Baldoni said co-founder. What was Shane Norman's role with Wayfair Entertainment? Baldoni says Shane Norman was brought on by our CEO at the time to assist with the building and the creation of, at the time, which was the beginning of Man Enough. And Gottlieb says the podcast, and Baldoni says there was no podcast. It was to help in the launch of the book Man Enough and to figure out ways that we could do activations and get more men involved.
That's my problem, is that I couldn't hire somebody in the launch of my book.
Yeah, you didn't have a book publicist.
I just needed to hire somebody in the launch of my book.
I think a book publicist would also tell you that you need to have an audiobook because it's very difficult to market today without
We're going to work on
audio.
that beginning as soon as my keyboard comes.
Okay. Question. Did you know that Mr. Norman was being hired before he was hired? And Baldoni says, I knew, yes. I was introduced to Mr. Norman and we had a job interview together, yes. Okay, you interviewed Mr. Norman? And Baldoni says, I did. Well, the last interview because we would be working with... I'm sorry. Well, the last interview because he would be working with me directly. Question. Okay, a number of people interviewed Mr. Norman. You were the final interview? And he says, correct. And you approved hiring him? Baldoni says, I did. You thought he would be good at the job for which you were hiring him? And Baldoni says, he presented fantastically. Okay, and it didn't work out that way, right? And Baldoni says, it did not. Gottlieb says, Mr. Norman was extremely abusive to women? And Baldoni says, I think you're referring to Mr. Sarowitz's testimony. And Gottlieb says, I am.
I told you I want to read Sarowitz next.
Baldoni says, I don't know if I would characterize it that way. We discovered that he was very combative. And we had been made aware after some time, which we were frustrated we didn't know earlier, that he had made several women cry, and he was not listening to their ideas. Question.
Huh. Wonder if they were ever physically intimidated by him.
Well, this is the thing is that they allege that they fired him for reasons not racial discrimination. Okay? But Shane Norman, in his lawsuit, he alleges that he had an argument with one of his peers in a meeting where they were criticizing him for his social media posts about the George Floyd killing and about Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
He's a black man.
Yep.
And when he reacted poorly to that criticism, as is totally understandable, and he got angry in a meeting, and then apparently word got around that was it got back to him that they were referring to him as an angry black man, which is just like, that's just a stereotype. Like, you don't actually call people that.
I even
like,
think
that's
it's
a stereotype
kind of racist, really.
Huh?
I kind of find it racist and like,
yeah, absolutely.
in tone, you know.
Also, if you're Wayfair and you're like all about social justice and, you know, equality and everything that they claim to be part of their mission, it doesn't make sense that in that business that you would be criticizing somebody for social media posts that are to that end. You know, it's very strange. So anyway, they fired him and retaliated against him, according to Shane Norman. But it makes sense that Steve Sarowitz would have to come up with a reason why they fired him that wasn't his claim, you know? Mm-hmm. And him being hostile or whatever seems like That's what they came up with. But we don't know, because I only read the Shane Norman complaint. They settled it, and so we don't know what the outcome of that was. There wasn't like none of those claims were like litigated, you know? Okay. So last thing Baldoni said, I don't know if I would characterize it that way, that Mr. Norman was extremely abusive to women. We discovered that he was very combative, and we had been made aware after some time that we were frustrated we didn't know earlier, that he had made several women cry, and he was not listening to their ideas. Gottlieb asks, let me read you what Mr. Sarowitz said and ask you if it's true. And Baldoni says, okay. What Mr. Sarowitz, I had to learn how to pronounce his name, says Gottlieb. Mr. Sarowitz said, and he's reading, this is a quote, we had an issue where we had an employee who was extremely abusive to women. It got to the point where each woman that they got in a meeting with was left with tears. Is that a truthful statement about Shane Norman? And Baldoni says, I don't know if that's a truthful statement. I don't know if every woman that he was in a meeting with was left in tears. And Gottlieb says, did that statement fairly capture the gist of Mr. Norman's behavior when he was employed by Wayfair Entertainment? And Baldoni says, I can't speak to Mr. Sarowitz's intention with those words, but my understanding was that is maybe an exaggeration, but very well could be Mr. Sarowitz's view on what happened. Weird how he steps around that, huh?
Yeah, because Sarowitz isn't around. People tell Sarowitz what he so he doesn't get it. You know, like what with the new guy? New guy made the girl cry. What? Oh shit! That's the entire. You know, that's what encompasses the entire composition of this human being. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
right.
Reputationally, that's who he is.
And based on Steve Sarowitz's other statements to Claire Ayub, it doesn't seem like he's the sort of person who understands, like, maybe nuance. Like, he just seems like he thinks in extremes. Mm-hmm. Good, bad, you know, dead bodies versus whatever, you know? He just seems like he's a bit of a hothead, too. Question. Would you agree with me that Mr. Sarowitz is a very thoughtful man? Baldoni says yes. And you were here during his deposition for at least part of it, right? And Baldoni says, I was. He considered my questions very carefully before he answered them. You remember that, right? And Baldoni says, I do remember that, yes. Gottlieb says, and seemed to me he was being truthful and trying to be accurate. Is that your impression also? And Baldoni says, I'm not saying that he wasn't truthful. Gottlieb says, but you are saying he was exaggerating. And Baldoni says, I said that in my opinion, having handled the situation alongside him, I wouldn't have characterized it in that way. Gottlieb says, do you know, he said a little bit later that there were many complaints made about Mr. Norman. And when he said, in quotes, many complaints, do you know about how many? I'm sorry. So when I said many complaints, do you know about how many? Sarowitz answered, in quotes, virtually every woman that they ever worked with. Is that true? And Baldoni says, it's my understanding that Mr. Sarowitz was not directly involved in any of this. You called it. It's my understanding that Mr. Sarowitz was not directly involved in any of this outside of when it finally came to our attention from the CEO. So he's free to express his opinion, but as the person that was there, I don't believe that that's a fair understanding of exactly what happened. I think it was far more nuanced than that. Question. Was an investigation performed? And Baldoni says, I believe so, yes. Question. Did the investigation corroborate that virtually every woman that Mr. Norman worked with had complained about his behavior? And Baldoni says, I don't remember the full details. I imagine it did, yes. Did the investigation provide a basis for removing Mr. Norman from the position he was in? Baldoni says, yes. Did you agree with that? Baldoni says, yes. Did you review whatever the final report or recommendation was that described Mr. Norman's behavior? And he says, yes. Did you find that information in understanding what had occurred? I'm sorry. I'm screwing up. If you find that anything I'm saying is hard to understand, just tell me and I'll repeat it, okay?
Same with you, chat.
I'm screwing up today, okay? Did you find that informative in understanding what had occurred? And Baldoni says yes. Okay. Question. And you found it informative in the understanding... You found it informative in understanding what had occurred, even though you had been present for a lot of what had occurred. Is that right? And Baldoni says, not correct. Gottlieb says, you weren't present for any of the incidents that were described in the report of the investigation into Mr. Norman's behavior? And Baldoni says, I was not. The question is, that report was in writing? And Baldoni says, correct. Do you know who conducted it or wrote it? And Baldoni says, an outside group of former attorneys who do HR, I believe. Question, do you know who that was? Baldoni says, I don't recall the name. Multiple women. I think it was 2 or 3 women. Was it important to you that it was women who did that investigation? And Baldoni says, I don't remember it being important to me. Well, you just brought it up right now. You said it was multiple women. I didn't ask you their genders. Why did your brain go to that? And Baldoni says, if you have a neuroscientist here, we could ask him. I have no idea, but as I recall, I can give you my understanding. I see things in pictures. So I'm very right-brained, I believe. And when I thought of the women who I had just seen in my mind on Zoom, they were, in fact, women. And so as my brain saw that they were women, I said women. I hope that answers your question. And Gottlieb says, it does. Did you support Mr. Sarowitz's decision about the employment action to take with respect to Mr. Norman? And he says, I did. And you know that employment action meant that he remained on with Man Enough in a consulting or part-time position for a number of months. He said, yes. And he continued to be paid. He said, yes. And you supported that? He says, I did. Who is Liz Plank? Baldoni says, Liz Plank is my former co-host of the Man Enough podcast. How long was she your co-host? Baldoni says, maybe 3 years. What changed? And Baldoni says, what changed? And Gottlieb says, what changed that caused her to not be your co-host anymore? And Baldoni says, I imagine the New York Times article and the entire world thinking I was a bad man.
The entire world?
The entire world thinking I was a bad man.
No, don't say that. Everyone loves you.
Did she tell you that? He said, no. Did you talk to her when she quit? He said, no. Did you read anything that she wrote about why she didn't want to be a co-host anymore? And Baldoni says, I believe it was shown to me, yes. Do you recall what it said? And Baldoni says, I can't recall exactly what it said, no.
I have it here for us.
Was it not important to you to understand why Miss Plank wanted to discontinue a 3-year-long professional relationship at that point in time? And Baldoni says, can you ask the question a different way? Gottlieb's like, I can try. You said you didn't talk to her after she quit. He said, no. And you didn't reach out to her to talk to her. He said, no. You weren't interested in hearing from her perspective on why she didn't want to be co-host of this podcast that was very important to you anymore. And Baldoni says, that's not it at all. And Gottlieb says, so what is it? Baldoni says, my memory, if it's correct, was that when she resigned from the podcast, she had asked to pass on that she didn't want anyone to reach out to her. Gottlieb says, who did you hear that from? And Baldoni says, I believe the person who runs the Man Enough podcast. And Gottlieb said, who's that? He says, Tara. Tara? And Baldoni says, his name is Tara. T. Yeah. Go ahead. Tara Hanks is a man.
There you go.
His name is Tara. This whole time.
Definitely didn't expect that. I had actually pictured a little blonde woman in my head.
A blonde woman?
Yeah, she was blonde.
Tara Hanks. That's a man. His name is Tara. T. They call him T. T. Hanks. When you write it out, it says thanks.
That's pretty cool.
Gottlieb says, sorry, first and last name, please. And Baldoni says, right, I'm having a hard time thinking of his last name right now. Forgive me.
It's a perfect brand, actually. T. Hanks.
Yeah. Okay, so it's someone named Tara. And Baldoni says, former. We don't currently have a Man Enough podcast, but he ran it, yes. They don't have a Man Enough podcast anymore. We don't currently have a Man Enough podcast.
No,
but he ran it, yes. And Jamie Heath was also the one.
What are you going to say on it? You know, you're literally fucking on trial.
I mean, it's a business.
We're about to be on trial.
I don't know what he's going to say on it. He could probably say a lot of things. He's got
no. I mean, the whole thing about it is to like. I mean, I'm sure his lawyers were like, you can't do it.
It's true, especially him.
Look what you already said in these other ones that we got to fucking deal with.
Baldoni. Yeah.
You know, not accepting no for an answer. I got an answer to that.
Okay, and Jamie Heath was also the one who informed me. He says. Gottlieb says, okay, so someone named Tara and Mr. Heath informed you that Liz Plank did not want to be contacted. And Baldoni says that she didn't want anyone from the show contacting her. Question, did they tell you why?
Also known as Jamie Heath and Justin Baldoni. That's who she didn't want contacting her.
Yeah, right.
I wouldn't either.
Did they tell you why? And Baldoni says, no. Did you ask? And Baldoni says, I assumed.
Because that's what you do, and that's
what
the.
you do.
It's so funny because it makes an ass out of you and me, and in this case, it just lives right up to that adage, right?
Wild way to do business, man.
Fucking weird, man.
I would want to know every detail, bro. I'd be like, you don't have to talk to me, but I'd like to see it in writing if you don't mind. Okay, Baldoni says, I assumed. And Gottlieb says, what did you assume? And Baldoni says, I assumed that she didn't want to have a conversation about why she left. And he continues, and I tried to respect that. Gottlieb's next question. On the set of It Ends With Us, at any point in time, did you have a practice of hugging people to start your day? And Baldoni says, I think some people would qualify me as a hugger. Gottlieb says,
I saw you rub that dude's back, bro. Oh.
Get your hands off
If
of
you
me.
rubbed my back like that, I'd be like, what are we doing, bro?
Why am I
What is
being
going on,
caressed
man?
by my boss? Okay. I think some people would qualify me as a hugger, says Baldoni. And Gottlieb says, is that a yes? He says, Baldoni says, I wouldn't call it a practice. I also have a practice of high-fiving people, so. Gottlieb says, my question was, on the set of It Ends With Us, at any point in time, did you have a practice of hugging people or giving hugs at the start of the day? And Baldoni says, I wouldn't call it a practice, but if you ask a different version of the question, I might give you the answer that you want. Gottlieb says, your lawyer is going to get really mad at you if you try to do that.
Yeah.
Are there any
I
days...
can't believe he's saying that. Like, his lawyer's like he's trying to lead the fucking...
The witness.
The attorney.
The attorney, yeah.
To ask him a question that makes him look bad. With the answer he knows he's looking for.
Your lawyer is going to get really mad at you if you try to do that.
I don't know why Gottlieb is
Gottlieb says,
playing in the sandbox with him either.
I know. He should be like, wonderful. Let's continue.
Great. Moving right along.
Allow
then.
me.
Yeah.
Gottlieb's question is, are there any days that you can think of where you began the day by hugging multiple people at the start of the day's work? And Baldoni says, sure, yes. On more than one day? Baldoni says, yes. Was it every day on the production of It Ends With Us? And Baldoni says, did I give a hug to more than one person on every day? Gottlieb says, every day, at the start of the day. And Baldoni says, I'm sure I did or got hugged. I don't know if it was exclusively giving. Question, did Mr. Heath? Baldoni says, I wasn't with Mr. Heath all day, every day. Gottlieb says, okay, on the first day of shooting, do you know if you greeted people at the start of that day?
Have to hug two guys every time you fucking see them?
Yeah.
Every day?
Mm-hmm. And you know they wear cologne, too.
Like,
you know they fucking wear cologne.
Yeah, they're stinking like brute.
Those fucking guys.
Yeah, fucking Old Spice.
Fucking rich religious
I used to wear cologne.
You did?
Yeah.
No way.
I was walking through a department store.
Did you have a brand?
Fahrenheit.
Oh, okay. What is that?
It's the fucking cologne.
No, but what it like?
Eau de toilette, if I must say.
It wasn't like you just like bought patchouli oil from like the craft market.
No, I was walking through the Hudson's Bay Company in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, and this fucking person was there going, giving these, and I was like, oh, that is nice. Wow, that is really fucking nice. I'll take a bottle. And so I bought that, and then it was one of the worst decisions I ever made because I was like, yeah, it's good to have, right? If I can have a little smell if you need one.
Is it?
No, I'll never do it again. I mean, I stopped wearing cologne, probably by the time I was 25. Certainly before I left for LA, so like 23. But every Christmas after that, because it was like when I was like a teenager, like 17 years old or some shit. Every Christmas after that, I got like 3 or 4 bottles of those fucking Fahrenheit, bro.
I know, that's how it goes. When it just
I threw out, I don't know, big ones, little ones,
right,
spray ones.
I just thought of that. Like,
ones.
I wonder whether there's like a novelty wearing something called Fahrenheit when you live in Canada and you guys use the Celsius system.
Oh yeah, it was really confusing.
I bet it doesn't sell that well in the U.S.
I used to love those commercials. When I was a kid, they used to have commercials, and it was a truck driver. It was when it changed to metric, and then here's another truck driver calling another truck driver. Oh, hey, slow down there, good buddy. It's not 100 miles an hour. It's 100 kilometers an hour. Because that's a big difference.
You have so much trucker lore that I've never heard before.
Oh, I got a lot of
You and
trucker
your
lore.
Cologne.
Do I ever?
Okay, I'm going to continue.
Please.
Okay. On the first day of shooting, do you know if you greeted people at the start of that day, May 15th, 2023, with hugs? And Baldoni says, I don't, but I imagine I did and was given hugs too.
So I thought you were all alone all the
Gottlieb
time.
asks cast members and crew, and Baldoni's like, is that a question? And Gottlieb's asking, did you hug cast members and members of the crew on May 15th, the first day of production?
Can you just be a fucking sport and go along with it, dick nut?
Baldoni says,
Why is that difficult for him to be like, to understand that that's obviously a question?
Yeah, right. Meanwhile, his attorney, Brian Friedman, is like just improving.
Yeah.
Okay. Baldoni says, I imagine hugs were exchanged between cast members and crew. Gottlieb asks, including perhaps some people you had not met before? And Baldoni says, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe. Gottlieb says, did you have any conversations before you hugged people on your set about whether they were comfortable with physical touching? And Baldoni says, not any more than people had with me when they came in to give me a hug. I think there is just
That's not the fucking question, is it?
I think there's just an energy, like, no offense, but I wouldn't give you a hug, so, but I just think there's a human energy that two people maybe unconsciously exchange. I don't know if you believe, I'm not saying that you have to believe in energy, I'm just saying that I think that there's a human greeting when you're starting something that is going to be a journey. That's not going to be easy. That's not going to be easy where you're creating an environment. And oftentimes, like the way that I move through the world, I think I'm very open and people would oftentimes will hug me. Present counsel excluded.
Victoria's here and she said, hi, Dale, hi, Angela and dude. And then she went, dick nut.
What?
Because I called him a dick nut.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is.
No, it's a clever one. Okay. Did you catch that?
Yes.
He said present counsel excluded.
Yeah.
And Gottlieb says, no hurt feelings, sir. You were the director of this film, right? Baldoni says yes. And you're a supervisor? Baldoni says yes. And the policy that we walked through in some length before, one of the things it referenced in it is hugging. Do you recall that? And he said, I do recall that. You also understand, because it's part of how you set up your studio, that there are power dynamics at play in the workplace, right? And Baldoni says yes. And you also understand, because you've spoken eloquently and admirably about many of these topics, about violence and abuse, that there are some people that have deeply held traumas that they have not exposed, nor fully gone through, nor talked about, right? And Baldoni says, of course. And that
Keep your fucking hands off of them, dude.
And that might include somebody that has had a trauma that makes them just uncomfortable with being touched.
That's me.
And Baldoni says, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, you hugged Miss Lively on multiple occasions on the set, right? And he said, yes. Every day? Baldoni said, no. How many times would you estimate? And Baldoni's like, that I hugged Miss Lively? And Gottlieb said, on the set. So not outside of the set environment, but at work on the set. And Baldoni says, are these hugs, I'm so sorry. Are these hugs that I initiated, or are these hugs that I was a recipient of? And Gottlieb says, you can characterize it however you'd like. And Baldoni says, I just wanted to be as accurate in my testimony as possible as it relates to the hugging. That was my question. Which one? Gottlieb says, you can include hugs that you believe you initiated and hugs you believe Miss Lively initiated. And Baldoni's like lump them all together? And Gottlieb says, sure, your best estimate. He says, okay.
I just want to know how many times you engaged in this activity with
Gottlieb
this
says,
person.
number of times. And Baldoni says, maybe a greeting and an exit. So at the most, maybe, again, I don't know. That's my answer to you, Mr. Gottlieb. I don't know. Mr. Gottlieb said, fair enough. And when you
How was your lunch?
Yeah, exactly.
Victoria said, if I don't want a hug, the hugger would know right then, and then it would not happen again. But the problem with that, what you're saying, Victoria, and that's cool with you. That's cool because everybody's different.
Yes,
but when
but
the
you're
boss,
dealing with this guy.
but when you're dealing with the boss,
And he gets all fucking like
yeah,
scowly
butt
and
hurts,
yeah.
and like you're trying to tolerate this person at the same time, and there are just so many factors involved.
If you're dealing with somebody who's going to put on a fucking storm cloud and like sulk
and
about
it's the boss. It's the boss.
Yeah.
You know,
she also has to work. It's her scene partner too.
Yeah,
so she's not
exactly.
trying to do anything that changes his mood, because he needs to perform so she can perform well.
yeah.
It's just a really bad situation.
It's a more complicated
He's starting
dynamic
a-
than just this is what I would do in that situation. Like I personally don't like being touched until I know you.
By fucking anybody.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not because I'm fucking weird. It's because that's just not my personality. I'm not a touchy-feely kind of person. I have been, I've gone through it. And so for me, it's just like,
Yeah.
hey, stay over there, and
It's very
I'll stay over
easy.
here. I don't mind
super easy
shaking
to
hands.
navigate.
And look, it doesn't take long before I feel comfortable enough to be like, yeah, let's have a hug or whatever. You know what I mean?
It's just the most easy thing to navigate too, because like if you just make it a policy that you don't touch people, then everybody's going to be happy. Not a single person is going to be at the workplace being like, nobody's hugged me today. You know what I mean?
Victoria said she has to go soon because she has an autistic son and she just bought him a space heater for his bathroom. So she needs to leave the group, which is cool, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know about the Telepathy Tapes podcast. But
we've talked about it a lot.
If I don't know if you've heard us talk about the Telepathy Tapes podcast. Start at season 1 though. It's all about autistic kids and telepathy, and
It's so cool.
it is transcendent. You got to check it out.
Good luck with everything.
Yeah, good
Victoria.
luck for sure. We'll see you again soon.
Okay. Okay, so Baldoni's. So he's asked a number of times. Baldoni says maybe a greeting and an exit. So at the most, maybe again, I don't know.
Yeah, it was about to go 14 days shooting, 28 hugs.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot. I'm not going to say that.
Yeah, right. Gottlieb says, fair enough. And when you don't know, that's what I always want your answer to be. So Baldoni repeats, I don't know. Do you know who Vivian Baker is? And Baldoni says, Vivian Baker is Miss Lively's makeup artist, I believe. Do you know that she testified
Viv.
under... What?
Viv.
Viv, yeah. Do you know that she testified under oath in this case? And Baldoni says, I assume her testimony would be under oath. Gottlieb says, do you know that she testified under oath in this case? And Baldoni says, yes. I love that he's like training him. He's like, I don't want your snarky, sarcastic response.
Yeah. Answered the question.
I want your
I'll ask
testimony.
again so you know for sure what to do.
Right. Question. Are you aware that she testified that there was a culture of hugging on the set of It Ends With Us? And Baldoni said, I am now. Are you aware that she said that made a number of people uncomfortable? And Baldoni said, I find that odd. Gottlieb says, you find that odd, why? Baldoni says, because Mrs. Baker was often the one that would run up and give me a hug. Gottlieb says, and because of that, you find it odd that she testified that a number of people felt uncomfortable with the culture of hugging on the set of It Ends With Us? And he said, correct. Do you remember earlier when you testified about the hot tub?
So it's so interesting. It's a great question by Gottlieb because why? If she's cool with it, like
If
this
she's
is
cool
this
with
is the
it,
thing that
but
he's.
she heard other people weren't.
We already know this from him.
Yeah.
That he thinks that way. Where
He
if
generalizes.
if it's good for me, it must be good for you.
Yeah, that's right. Well, also, the question wasn't that she felt uncomfortable. He says she would run up and give me a hug. But he's apparently not listening because
No.
she says that other people on the set felt
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And he, for some reason, that's not entering his mind.
You can't figure it out.
Yeah, he's not comprehending. Okay. Do you remember earlier when you testified about the hot tub? And Baldoni says, you're referring to what? Sexually harassed? And Gottlieb says, when you were sexually harassed in the hot tub? He said, yes. Do you remember that moment when you thought, maybe I should do what this powerful person is suggesting that I ought to do? And Baldoni says, I don't know if I testified to having a moment where I thought maybe I should do what he's suggesting I do. And Gottlieb says, do you remember saying that to Glamour? And Baldoni says, I don't remember saying that to Glamour. And Gottlieb says, do you remember thinking that for a moment? And Baldoni says, I remember seeing his naked genitals inches away from my face before he walked and lowered himself into the hot tub and asked me to take off my pants. My shorts. I don't know if I remember feeling, should I? I remember feeling, how do I leave this situation? And Gottlieb says, do you think Miss Baker was perjuring herself when she said that multiple people felt uncomfortable because of the culture of hugging on the set of It Ends With Us?
Well, I like the question a lot.
Baldoni says, I'm not sure how my assumption of Miss Baker's testimony would lead to perjury. And Gottlieb says, do you or do you not think that she was being truthful when she said that multiple people felt uncomfortable about a culture of hugging on the set of It Ends With Us? And Baldoni says, I think she was being truthful. That's not why I said I thought it was odd. Gottlieb says, okay, did you ever hear from anyone on the set of It Ends With Us that hugging, daily hugging, was making them uncomfortable? And Baldoni says, there was a point in time that I heard that, yes. And when was that? Baldoni says, that was from Ange Gianetti and I believe Alex Sachs. Do you recall when that was? Baldoni says, it was early on in production, maybe the first week or two. Okay, so that's in May of 2023. And Baldoni says, I have a feeling you know the date better than me, so yes. Gottlieb says, and what did you do?
He just doesn't understand what he's doing here. This isn't a fucking about who knows what. It's about what he knows.
Yeah, that's right. Gottlieb says, and what did you do when Miss Sachs and Miss Giannetti told you that certain people felt uncomfortable with the hugging on the set of It Ends With Us? And Baldoni says, I stopped hugging. Did you perform an investigation? And Baldoni says, because people didn't want there to be as much hugging? And Gottlieb said, that's my question. And Baldoni says, no. Did you inform anybody in HR? And Baldoni says, I did not. Even though hugging is one of the items that appears in your sexual harassment policy? And Baldoni says, I was unaware of any official complaint of the hugging. In fact, quite the opposite. Gottlieb continues, again, and we did this before. You understand, because we had this exchange before, that an official complaint does not need to be filed in order for something to violate the Wayfair Studios sexual harassment policy, right? And Baldoni says, correct.
Correct.
And you understand
Did you hear that, Baldoni fans?
Yeah.
Like, will they ever listen to that reality, which they have been hanging their fucking hats on for a year?
Just for reference, this is on page 122 of the Gottlieb questioning of his deposition. I think that's good to reference for people. It's a nice, quick little screenshot.
It's an important one because they keep talking about it and they keep like, she didn't complain. Yes, she did. And even if she didn't, it wouldn't fucking matter. Go ahead.
And you understand that there are supervisor responsibilities that apply that do not depend upon the filing of an official HR complaint, right? And Baldoni says, correct. Okay. And Baldoni continues, but just to point you back to 9054, page 6, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it says, and Baldoni is reading this quote, if any supervisor or manager becomes aware of a violation of this policy, Baldoni says, and I stand by the fact that I was not aware of any violation of the policy.
You just testified to being told that by two people.
Yeah. And Giannetti
one producer
and
one producer for the studio.
In the first
that people were uncomfortable with your conduct.
Yep.
It's just unbelievable that in just two sentences he can completely contradict himself.
He also didn't finish the sentence either when he's rereading to make his point. If any supervisor or manager becomes aware of a violation of this policy.
Yeah.
And he stops there. So, I don't know. There's a whole paragraph that tells him what he should have been doing.
Correct.
Okay. Gottlieb continues. So you would need to, under your understanding of the policy, you would need to determine in your judgment that the policy had been violated before you got HR involved? And Baldoni says, I don't believe I was aware of any violation of the policy. If that were the case, then every single person on that set would have been reported to HR who engaged in any sort of hugging, including, ironically, Mrs. Baker, who hugged each time she saw me, post the incident where I was made aware of the hugging, which made me feel very awkward. Gottlieb says, okay. Is it your testimony that after this conversation with Miss Sachs and Miss Giannetti, that there was no more hugging on the set of It Ends With Us that occurred that you were a part of? And Baldoni says, my recollection is I was very aware once I was made aware of that. I believe it was Miss Sachs and Mrs. Slate specifically felt the set was too huggy. Hence my feeling that there was no violation. It was a generalization, and I believe the word used was huggy or comfy, which I think would have been a strange thing to report. I remember very much being extra conscious and aware of the energy between who I were to approach on a daily basis and who I were to hug. I remember shifting to many more high fives than hugs. Still wants to touch people, though. Including solely for Mrs. Slate and Miss Lively. So good morning, high five. I don't think there was ever a hug that took place between myself, Mrs. Slate, or Miss Lively after I became aware that the set was too huggy.
That doesn't mean you conducted an investigation. That doesn't mean that you have any record of what people fucking went through based on the activities going on in your set.
I also, he thinks it's so odd for somebody to be like, the set is too huggy or comfy. He said, which I think would have been a strange thing to report. Bitch, it's not up to you. It's not your fucking.
It's actually physically touching people in the workload.
Embracing their body with your arms.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's pressing your chest against their chest.
In the workplace.
It didn't bother him. He loves it.
Yeah, and
like he said, his friends would call him huggy.
I think it's also interesting that he said, I remember shifting to many more high fives than hugs. So good morning, high five. And they're like, we still have to fucking touch this guy. Like, what if you just don't touch other people at all with any part of your body? I don't want to touch the palm of your hand either.
It doesn't, it's not like hugging is some kind of like it's not like there aren't alternatives to being, kind and affectionate to your fucking coworkers.
It's also like he seems to have this barrier. Like, does camaraderie not translate to you unless you're physically making contact with somebody with a hug or a high five or whatever? Like, are you struggling somehow to understand how you can work with people and be friendly with them and say good morning and have like cheerful camaraderie if you don't physically touch them? Like, what is the matter with you?
Is he the like somebody needs a hug kind of guy?
Yeah.
Somebody needs a hug. Just got a very important question from TB6031. How much are you guys getting paid? You're overreacting, too obvious. Well, we're busted. So here's what we're doing, just so you know, and we'd like you to participate in it. We're just, Ryan Reynolds is buying Angela and I our house. We don't own a house. So he's going to buy us a house as soon as we get to 1,000 subscribers. So if you would, just hit that subscribe button. We're almost there. Another 250 or so subscribers, Ryan Reynolds buys us a new house, and all we have to do is overreact.
Because doesn't that make sense that a channel this size would be being paid for by anybody?
And if you spent 10 minutes figuring it out, you'd know that I'm actually a filmmaker who had his film stolen from a fucking act by a big movie star who went through a multi-million-dollar lawsuit with that big movie star because that big movie star not only took my film and stole my movie, but also that big movie star, by the way, is Leonardo DiCaprio. He also disparaged my name and ruined my reputation throughout all of Hollywood and ended up getting me blacklisted. So that's who I am. Who are you?
Should I continue?
Yeah.
Okay. Gottlieb says, in any prior movie that you worked on or set that you worked on, did the issue of hugging ever come up to your recollection? And Baldoni says no. So this was the first time that you had ever had this issue raised, addressed, spoken about? And Baldoni says, this is the first time for many things, Mr. Gottlieb. Gottlieb says, did you ever tell Miss Lively that you had spoken to her deceased father? And Baldoni says, let me shift gears real quick. Please ask the question again. And Gottlieb says, did you ever tell Miss Lively that you had spoken to her deceased father? And he said, no. And question. And is your answer no because in your view you told Miss Lively that you had prayed to her deceased father? And Baldoni says, no, I'm talking about the context of the conversation and the multiple conversations that happened regarding Miss Lively's unfortunately deceased father. Gottlieb says, was there ever a point in time when you told Miss Lively that you had communicated in any form with her deceased father? And Baldoni says, I insinuated to Miss Lively in a conversation where the previous day we had spoken about life after death and various things, which we don't have to discuss now. That's convenient, right? He says that we don't have to discuss now. Are you listening?
I am, yeah.
Okay,
I just had to decline a call.
He said, I insinuated to Miss Lively in a conversation where the previous day we had spoken about life after death and various things, which we don't have to discuss now, that I had prayed for her dad and I had asked him to bless our movie. Gottlieb says, what else was there when you had that conversation with Miss Lively? I'm sorry, I screwed up. Who else was there when you had that conversation with Miss Lively? And Baldoni says, this was at her, I don't know what you call it. She used to call it Buckingham Palace, as she said, because so many celebrities walk through there. I think that was her office in her penthouse apartment, which was the place that Miss Lively requested all of our meetings be. It was just her and myself.
It's like such a funny sense of humor thing, Buckingham Palace.
It is. And I noticed that they were sharing, when this was released, they shared this little excerpt, and they made that the story. That she calls her office in her home Buckingham Palace. Not the part of the story in which this context...
That actually matters, yeah.
Yeah, that he is talking to her deceased father.
It's such a weird thing to think you're, like, sliding on her, because she has a sense of humor. Because it's obviously not Buckingham Palace.
Yes.
So we know it's not Buckingham Palace. She knows it's not Buckingham Palace. So it's not delusion.
No, I know.
It's a joke.
Sarcasm.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
It's satire. It's self-parody. It's ridiculous.
They got her, though. Okay.
Can you believe how arrogant she is? She thinks she's a fucking royal.
Is it your testimony that Miss Lively used to refer to that as Buckingham Palace? And Baldoni says that's what her and Mr. Reynolds would call it. They may have said it was something that Taylor Swift had said.
You said that's what her?
Yes, that's what her and Mr. Reynolds would call it. They may have said that it was something that Taylor Swift had said.
Grammatically curious.
Question. And so your testimony is that at the meeting in the office in Miss Lively's apartment building, you shared with Miss Lively that you had prayed to her deceased father? And he says, Baldoni says, for and asked. Yes. Asked him to bless our movie.
So you spoke to him. You see how that is? Who'd you speak to? Who were you speaking to when you asked?
Asked him.
Somebody tried to tell me this. Like he didn't say he talked to her. I was like, okay, what did he say? And then they said this shit. And then I was like, so who's he talking to then? Who the fuck is he talking to when he asked?
There's no way you can make that better. What the fuck is he doing?
There's only one person he's talking to when he asked. I don't give a fuck if he didn't hear anything back. We know why he didn't hear anything back.
It's like,
because he's fucking dead.
Are you trying to make her cry? Like, are you trying to make her sob? Do you want her to experience a fucking overwhelming grief in a conversation? Like, this is just the sort of thing that you step around very lightly. I don't understand why he's just diving right in and taking liberties like this about the topic of her recently deceased father. Like, what the fuck is the matter with you?
Insanity.
Okay. Question. Is there any other time that you can recall that you mentioned to Miss Lively communicating in any way to her deceased father? And Baldoni wants to ask, may I ask a clarifying question? And Gottlieb says, sure. Baldoni says, what do you mean by communicating? And Gottlieb says,
sign language.
I think it's more important that I understand what you mean by communicating.
Yeah.
And Baldoni says, if communicating means a two-way conversation, is that what you're implying? That I'm suggesting to Miss Lively that I had a two-way conversation with her deceased father? Which is really rich because he's setting it up. He's like, because that would be ridiculous, as if what he's suggesting is
he's trying to turn the
ridiculous.
table on it being them being ridiculous when he's the one who's saying that he's fucking going to talk to her dad by asking her something of him. Mm-hmm. It's not even his fucking business. It's like in reality, once you if the spirit of Blake Lively's father is accessible to anybody, fucking who invited you?
Who invited you? And also, I think it's really amazing if you're the superstitious type of person who thinks that you can do something like pray to a deceased person to help them, help you with your film or something. Look at how her father protected her in the making of this film. Look at how he conjured that into his own film.
Yeah, there you go.
And look at how, just like how Sean P. Diddy Combs got that tattoo of this like
the fucking guard, the angel.
Yeah, it's like this Caribbean Orisha, like this goddess.
It's like a goddess,
figure,
yeah.
But she is like a goddess of justice
that protects women.
Yes, that protects women.
She's
and
the protector of women, and so, he ended up getting put in prison.
It's just like you cannot screw with these things. Like, look at what it got you. Look at how Blake Lively has had all of this support, and your reputation is in the shitter because you went and conjured her father for her protection. I'm just saying, if you believe in that sort of thing, then look at where it got you. Don't mess with other people's ancestors. You just don't do that.
Please.
They belong to them. Okay. Baldoni says, if communicating means a two-way conversation, is that what you're implying? That I'm suggesting to Miss Lively that I had a two-way conversation with her deceased father? And Gottlieb says, I'm asking what you recollect saying to Miss Lively. And so, I don't want us to get tripped up on talking to communicating. What did you express to Miss Lively about what did you express to Miss Lively about whatever interaction or message or prayer? What did you express to Miss Lively about her deceased father anytime other than what you just told me? Baldoni says, may I provide a little bit of context and then answer the question? And Gottlieb says, I can't stop you. And Baldoni says, you could. And Gottlieb says, go ahead. And Baldoni says, I would give you consent.
Just shut up and spill the beans, buddy. Your lawyers can't wait.
And Gottlieb says, go ahead, sir. So we've heard this before, but this is a long thing, okay?
Yeah, you're going to read it, yeah.
Baldoni says, the previous day in her office, as was customary, Miss Lively and I were having conversations about all sorts of things. She was an actor, and I'm a director, and I'm also an actor, and part of that is getting to know the person that you're acting with. This is something that all acting coaches and people I believe at a high level do.
I'm circumcised, by the way.
That's totally normal.
Just saying.
Everybody does that.
We should get to know each other a little better, and I just want you to know that I'm circumcised.
You get to know the person that you're working with.
Didn't hurt, by the way.
And I was made aware that Miss Lively's father had passed somewhat recently. I was made aware. See how that's the passive verbs? Who told him he doesn't want to tell?
And that immediately just makes me sus for like suspect him for fucking.
Did he look it up beforehand?
For manipulation.
Yeah.
It's just manipulation.
I know.
Like you're the kind of person who's taking in information and finding ways to repurpose it. Like he just said previous to this that we get to know each other by, having these great conversations,
right.
these deep conversations. So he goes out and learns that her father dies, and he decides to incorporate that into his exercise of trying to bond and get closer to her.
He's going to put that in his little tool belt and bring it to the meeting.
So fucked up, because the most you could ever hope for, if you're actually a reasonable human being who knows ahead of time something as ridiculous as that, or as important as that, I should say, ridiculously important as that,
private as that,
that you would just hope that would be like the one thing that you would see as a sign that the relationship is progressing or has progressed, if she were to share something like that, for example.
Right.
Like it wouldn't be something you put on the table. It would be something you kind of hope gets put on the table to kind of prove that the bond that you're trying to build is succeeding, if anything. But you certainly wouldn't bring it up.
If you learn that about somebody, that's a none of your business category. You know what I mean? You don't talk about people's dead relatives, especially if they were really
not
close.
Not in that way,
What are you
certainly.
trying to, so you're trying to upset her? Because that's upsetting.
So I hear your dad is dead.
Anyway.
That's a fucking shame.
But I want to talk to him, okay? So I'm just going to use his phone number. All right. Here's what he says. That is something that all acting coaches and people I believe at a high level do. You get to know that person that you're working with. And I was made aware that Miss Lively's father had passed somewhat recently, I think within a few years. And I had imagined that it might be difficult to be making a movie for the first time since his passing, since I learned he was like an acting coach. So I asked her if this was the first film that she's made since he's passed. And she said yes. And I think I said something about that. That must be hard. And what was he like? I've always found that in my years of experience being a human, that oftentimes it's nice to discuss the memories of the people that have passed. And from what I've heard, they were very close. So just in a way of having a conversation with Miss Lively to build a connection, as we were working together fairly intimately. So she shared a little bit about her dad. I remember asking if she had any spiritual beliefs or so. And then I asked if it was okay if I shared mine. And so I shared a very brief summary of my faith, specifically because I said that we have some really beautiful beliefs about life after death. And so then I shared that, I really believe
it's not a Baha'i set, though. It's not a Baha'i set, but you got to sit there and you got to fucking deal with that.
And then I asked if it was okay if I shared mine, and she was like, ugh, okay.
Exactly. It's like you're being cornered into that.
Then this is how much he went into it. He just rattled it off. He said it was brief, but listen to what he's saying here, right? And so I shared a very brief summary of my faith, specifically because I said that we have some really beautiful beliefs about life after death. And so then I shared that, I really believe that those of us, the people in our lives who pass on, are closer to us now than they were when they were here. I gave her the analogy of the womb, and how in the Baha'i faith, we are told that when we are infants in the womb, we have our whole world of existence. We are developing things. We are developing our eyes, our ears. We are developing our skin, our lungs. We are developing all of these things, but we don't have any use for them in the womb world.
I disagree.
In the womb
I think
world.
skin is very handy in the womb world.
All the while, we are coexisting in this world. So basically, a baby is in both places at once. But we are aware of the baby in the womb, and we can pray for it, and we can influence it. And then I just explained that our belief is that when we die of the womb, we're born into this world, and we need everything that we are developing. But when we die in this world, we only take with us our spiritual qualities. But as it
scientist said, "Womb world, everybody drink."
Yeah, that's on the bingo card.
Oh, fuck.
But as it relates to her father, I was explaining that where we go next, which I believe you can call it heaven, or I believe you're Jewish, like most of my family, whatever you believe in or don't believe in. What I was explaining to her was that I believe that just like we could pray for the baby in the womb, I believe that they can help us and pray for us, which is why all these little coincidences and miracles can happen. So based on that conversation, which I actually went back and told my wife that Miss Lively and I had a lovely conversation about life. She seemed very engaged, but also she's an actress, so maybe she wasn't.
You're an actor, so maybe you weren't.
That next morning when I came in, because I had prayed for her father, I let her know that. And so it was in the context of this larger conversation, which I summarized shortly. It was much longer than that I offered a prayer for her father, and I asked him to bless our film because I believe that those who have passed on can still help us. I wasn't in any way saying that him and I had like a conversation and broed out. And that wasn't...
It's weird how he gets her, he gets that all wrong.
And that wasn't at all the context, nor do I think if you were a witness in the room, you would have felt that way. And then Baldoni's attorney immediately asks for a short break.
Horrible.
Baldoni's attorney is very much being like, you are not to do that.
Stop doing that.
You are not to tell a whole narrative story.
Yeah, and then on top of that, he tried to say that Gottlieb would act a certain way, which is so weird. In a similar circumstance.
Ms. Shapiro says, Mr. Gottlieb, can we take a short break? And Gottlieb says, after I'm done asking a follow-up question to that answer, which was approximately 6 minutes long.
6 fucking minutes. That's why she asked for a break. Let me tell you, man, the first thing that a lawyer tells you when you're getting prepped for deposition in a major litigation is shut the fuck up.
Yep.
Answer the questions.
Answer the question you're asked.
If a yes or a no answer will suffice, that's all you give.
All right. Baldoni apologized, said, I'm sorry. Mr. Gottlieb said, you gave me context. I told you you could. And Baldoni says, I was only following directions. And Gottlieb says, I am noting that it lasted 6 minutes. I'm not interested in this question. I'm not interested in what you intended to communicate. I'm interested in what you recall specifically saying, the words you specifically recall saying. And at any point in time that you can think of, did you say to Miss Lively that you had spoken to or had a conversation with her deceased father? And Baldoni says, at no point in time have I ever spoken to Miss Lively and said that I had a conversation with her deceased father, nor have I ever said to anyone that I've had a conversation with anyone who is deceased, as I was not born with that ability to speak to the dead. Gottlieb says, okay, and I'm almost, and Shapiro speaks up, says, can we please take a break? And Gottlieb says, I'm almost done. And Shapiro says, one more question and then we're taking a break. And Gottlieb says, do you recall ever saying to Miss Lively, after she referenced in a joke, tell my dad he owes me $40? Do you recall ever pulling $40 out of the coat of one of your pockets? And Baldoni says, out of the pockets of one of your coats? I'm sorry, that was the attorney clarifying. Sorry. So the question is, do you recall ever saying to Miss Lively after she referenced in a joke, tell my daddy owes me $40? Do you recall ever pulling $40 out of the pockets of one of your coats? And Baldoni says, so I remember a very funny coincidence. And I don't believe it was $40. I believe it was 20. So from my perspective, I remember that it was 20. And the reason I remember it was 20 was because on the way to her apartment, I found $20 on the road. And I remember it was 20 because I'm sure if I found $20, that's a very rare thing to find. So she made a joke as Miss Lively.
Justin Baldoni find $20. He bought 3 mansions in the last fucking 9 years.
Yeah.
Or not 3 mansions, 2 mansions and a fucking bungalow.
He's blessed. He's
he's the one that finds. There's like fucking hungry ass motherfuckers who have never found $20 on a road in their lifetime.
Baldoni's gonna fail up again. He fails all the way up every time.
He's just gonna keep failing all the way up, right? Uh-huh. And then he's gonna get grabbed by the back of his fucking hair and pulled to the heavens in front of us all.
He's not gonna learn a single fucking lesson, but he's gonna fail up. You'll see. Baldoni continues, so she made a joke, as Miss Lively often does, and so I made a joke back, and the conversation was no way, I just found $20. It was 2 people joking, and it was never intended nor meant to be anything that was serious, but I did find $20. Gottlieb says, I'm gonna honor your counsel's request now. They're gonna take a break.
You fucking weirdo. I mean, he's not a weirdo, but he is, but not for that. He is for that. That's just the weirdest thing. There's absolutely no reason in the world why this guy should be offering to read or speak to, I should say, or have, fucking, and by the way, shut the fuck up. Pray to her dad and shut the fuck up then. If that's your thing.
I know.
Just shut the fuck up.
So
go pray to the dad, come back to the set and be like.
He's trying to leverage it somehow to bond with her.
Correct.
Just be like, look at this thing we're doing.
He qualified it as that.
I have marshaled here's what's weird. Here's what's weird that I just remembered.
Cold.
She says, I will open my network to you. These are my dragons. Everyone benefits from these wonderful dragons of mine, she says in her text. And she literally says they can be your dragons too. Okay? That's what she says.
I wonder if that pissed off Taylor like quietly because she's like, I'm not your motherfucking dragon, motherfucker. I am the Khaleesi.
No, I guess according to these text messages, she thought it was cute. Anyway,
really?
Listen. So when she's offering literal help from her, like, high achieving big shot friends, Baldoni recoils. But when she mentions that she has a deceased father, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna open up that network. I'm gonna open up your spiritual network, and then choose to use those to marshal for my benefit."
They're introducing them to like world class, like the top of the top in entertainment, from directors to musicians to whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
And he finds that all offensive. Mm-hmm. He finds that all offensive. The call with Levy, Sean Levy. Is that right? Mm-hmm. The call with Sean Levy.
But
he's like, it was clear that he wasn't actually calling because of me. Well, you whiny little fucking.
But if he thought that he could get help from somebody who cannot speak, right, and has no influence on Earth anymore, then yeah, sure, he's going to try to use that to his benefit. He wanted her deceased father to bless his production. I just can't believe the fucking audacity, bro. It's like, to do ancestral veneration with someone else's ancestors is just fucking. Yeah,
that was the best explanation. I was so happy that, because I didn't know anything about ancestral veneration until you brought it up, when the first time that I actually replied to this, and I read you my reply, and you're like, no, and then you straightened me out and you told me that it was this ancestral veneration, which I'd never heard of.
Oh yeah, it's just like, that's just a broad term for what a bunch of different spiritual practices do.
Yeah, but I never even, I understood it as soon as you said it, because it's two very easily understandable words, right? Put them together, you get it. But I actually did end up looking up, and it is more specific in terms of it really being super personal. I mean, the word ancestor should make that clear.
Right.
But it is an entirely personal, and like spiritually, in almost all the examples that I looked up or that were provided in my search, they spoke of the emotional and spiritual depth and connection.
But see,
between ancestors, not between. And it's not about like, this isn't fucking knocking on the dad's door asking for a date.
No. And see how it ended up with him? She was, if you believe in this sort of thing, it resulted in Blake Lively being spiritually empowered, right? Spiritually supported in this. And the person who was her adversary, who was trying to stomp her down, getting fucking ruined and having all these things go badly for him.
Yeah.
He's been fucking collecting L's in court ever since the fucking beginning. So it's just like, it's amazing to me how he barked up the wrong tree right there. Yeah.
We're an hour in, and so I'm just going to try to make a practice of just, asking people when we're an hour in to don't forget to like and subscribe. If you really want to support the channel and see this channel grow and become something, bigger, better, and even more fun, head over to Patreon. The link is in our description, and become a crew member, man. To become a crew member of this beautiful little live, it's just $1 a month. And there are actually a couple packages there. You can also join me while I do the second edition of Too Real, a Hollywood Memoir, where I'm going to use that opportunity to create a learning experience for us all in a thorough rewrite with additional scenes and all kinds of really neat, important, and wildly evolutionary in terms of the process. So check it all out on Patreon. It's in the link below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. By the way, you can. I saw that there was a bunch of people that came to the Patreon. If you don't want to sign up for $1, that's cool. Just sign up for free. Then we're gonna post some content on there for both sides. There's only 2 packages. One's the writing room. The other one is for the crew. You can join both of them, of course, but you can also just join for free. And everybody's gonna get free content as we start creating. Okay, so come check it out. Thank you so much. Angela?
Yes.
This live was brought to you by. is complete. Do you want to continue on?
Yes, I was peeking at the chat. Okay.
Lacey's here. What's up, Lacey? What's going on, Lacey? Austin's here. We got lots of good people here, man.
Okay, next question.
Yeah.
Mr. Gottlieb says, Mr. Baldoni, yesterday you were asked a question about whether you've done any leadership training. And I think you said something about doing leadership coaching at some point in your 20s. He says yes. Was any of that ever with an organization called Landmark? And Baldoni said no.
I did Landmark.
You did?
Blake Sennett of Rilo Kiley paid for me to do it.
No way.
Yeah, I did it with him, and I did it with Jeremy Sisto. Yeah.
Sounds terrible.
I did it in LA. It was not great.
Question. Never had any affiliation with, attended any sessions with Landmark Forum? And he said no.
They used to be called Est, and they had to change everything because when they were Est, this was during the 80s, they locked people in and didn't let them out.
Oh my God.
And they would go through all this like brain shit, and they wouldn't let you out.
So people are
and they
like-
ended up getting like kidnapping like allegations because people were not allowed to leave.
God.
And then they had to change the whole policy, and then they got all this bad press, and they changed it from Est to Landmark.
Oh my God.
Isn't that interesting?
Next question. Any recollection of you, as you sit here today, of who the leadership coaching or training was with? And Baldoni says, it was a man who I was referred to by somebody just one-on-one. Okay. Question. Back
Titanic
to
Edits is here. I just want to say hello. What's up?
Oh, that's wonderful. Back to It Ends With Us. In the course of production on It Ends With Us, did you ever invite the department heads to go to a bathhouse or spa with you? And Baldoni says, I may have. Do you have a recollection of it as you sit here today? And Baldoni says, like in a formal way, like to all the department heads? And Gottlieb says, any invitation in any form. And Baldoni says, yeah, I believe I had. Okay. I'm going to mark a document that's been marked as Exhibit 22. It is a document with the Bates numbers. It's a text exchange dated June 15th, 2024. So this is literally... Oh, I'm sorry. It's 2024. So that is a year after they started production. This is before the premiere. Okay?
Okay.
2 months before the premiere. And I'm going to represent to you, Mr. Baldoni, that this is a text exchange between Alex Sachs and Ange Giannetti. Ange Giannetti is the home number that is blacked out there. Why don't you take a look at this, and then I'll ask you some questions. Have you had a chance to look at the Exhibit 21, Mr. Baldoni? He corrected himself, Exhibit 22. Baldoni says, I have. Do you see on this page, which is the first page of the text exchange, Miss Sachs writes to Miss Giannetti at 2:53 p.m., reading, this is a quote, Justin was very dismissive of her when she wanted to direct, and then used Jamie to try to manipulate her when he realized she couldn't. She should co-direct it after she got Daddy-O going. Do you see that? He said, I do. Do you know who Miss Sachs is referring to here? And Baldoni says, I could only assume. Who do you assume she's referring to? And Baldoni says, well, the director of Daddy-O was our writer, which is Christy Hall. Okay. Question. And so you understand her to be discussing you being very dismissive of Christy Hall? And Baldoni says, I see that Alex is saying that I'm dismissive of her in this text message to Ange Giannetti, yes. Gottlieb is saying, okay, do you believe you were dismissive to Christy Hall? And Baldoni says, not at all. Do you see at 2:57 p.m., Miss Sachs says, and he's reading, this is a quote, in short, she didn't feel respected as a female voice on the team. And on a movie like this, that felt especially bad. Do you see that? And Baldoni says, I do see that. Do you see that she also says, she, being Miss Sachs, says of Miss Hall, writing, she's scared of a backlash. Who isn't? And Baldoni says, I see that. Gottlieb asks, did you understand one way or the other whether Miss Hall felt disrespected as a female voice on the team? And Baldoni says, not officially until I read this just now.
Dakota Johnson, Sean Penn. That's Susan Daddio.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Question. And you testified earlier that Miss Sachs and Miss Giannetti is who you learned the concerns or complaints, however you describe it, about the hugging, that they're the ones who told you? And Baldoni says yes. And that was in May of 2023, and Baldoni says I would assume so. Okay. So you see that Miss Giannetti at 5:29 p.m. says, and he's reading, this is a quote, so many things stacking up, people are so many things stacking up, people are so upset or pissed off about. I cannot believe how they just keep on coming. Do you see that? Baldoni says, I do. Is that consistent with your understanding of what was happening as of June 15th, 2024? And Baldoni says, I don't remember what was happening on June 15th of 2024, outside of, and then he trails off.
By the way, I just went to Christy Hall's thing, and she's got one upcoming. It's called The Husband's Secret.
Oh.
So I clicked on it. It stars Blake Lively.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah, this is...
Is she directing or
what
writing?
happened is, do you remember that...
What is she doing on it?
Blake Lively is starring.
No. What is Christy Hall doing?
Director is Kat Corio.
So Christy Hall's writing?
Christy Hall was writing and
Fantastic.
probably producing or co-producing or
Sweet.
some level. But what happened was, and I was very critical back in the day, and you know this, Angela, I got like almost shouty about Blake Lively going on the red carpet and dropping a bomb that, first of all, not only did she not rewrite that rooftop scene, but that Ryan Reynolds did, but that she also called it the best scene in the movie, or that the fans are calling the best scene in the movie. And then Christy Hall, who came to the red carpet after Blake Lively, she got confronted with this new knowledge that everyone had learned for the first time, because it basically slipped out of her mouth. This whole Blake Lively puts her foot in her mouth stuff.
Yeah.
And Blake Lively immediately realized how fucked up that was, because it was fucked up.
Yeah, in her amended complaint, she included the letter that she sent to Christy Hall the next day.
So
apologizing.
they were found in New York, spotted in New York at a cafe or whatever, jamming. And apparently, when asked about it, it was that they were collaborating on a project together. So Blake Lively just basically said, I fucked up so bad. I'm embarrassed. And I just
But I love your work.
I love your work. And I would love to work with you. Do you want to work together? And there it is.
Look at that.
Now nobody wants to work with Blake Lively. So she's like, well, fuck. Who's doing who a favor here?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know. I think things are going to change. Okay.
Go ahead.
So we're still talking about this text message, okay?
Go get it.
Miss Giannetti says in the text, so many things stacking up. People are so upset or pissed off about. I cannot believe how they just keep on coming.
M. Serrato wants to know the page number, I think, for all this.
Oh, I am on page. So the pages, there's redundancy with the page numbers. This is the second day. So it's page 138 on the second day. The second day being that he's being questioned by Gottlieb, but there's another, the count.
Is there a PDF page?
The PDF page is 199.
PDF page 199 or one.
But there's 4 pages per page of the PDF.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
Is that good? Okay. So many things stacking up. People are so upset or pissed off about. I can't believe how they just keep on coming. And Baldoni is asked by Gottlieb, is that consistent with your understanding of what was happening as of June 15th, 2024? And Baldoni says, I don't remember what was happening in June 15th of 2024 outside of being isolated and kicked off my own film. Okay. Gottlieb says,
He bought a mansion
yeah.
in fucking Nashville because he was going to ditch Hollywood because he blew it. You know how he paid for that?
With the winnings from this movie.
I can tell you for sure that he paid for that mansion with the winnings from this movie that got
he didn't lose anything.
stolen from him. Yeah. He lost nothing.
A massive success.
He's also got fucking credits out the ass.
Okay.
Joke.
Okay, so do you see Miss Sachs is saying, and Gottlieb is reading, this is a quote, I think this is where the narcissism is dangerous, and I don't know he remembers honestly or knows that he's doing anything wrong. I don't think he remembers honestly or knows that he's doing anything wrong. Baldoni says, I see that. Do you agree with Miss Sachs that you did not remember or know that you were doing anything wrong? And Baldoni says, can I ask what you're referring to? Gottlieb says, I'm referring to Miss Sachs's words on June 15th, 2024. Baldoni says, I can't begin to speculate about what Miss Sachs is referring to when she says, I don't think he remembers honestly or knows that he's doing anything wrong. Gottlieb continues, do you see at 3:01 p.m., Miss Giannetti says, and this is a quote, with this many people and issues, I mean I'm assuming that's TGEY. I guess it's a typo he's reading. I mean, they just keep coming. Baldoni says, I do see that. And then Miss Sachs replies, and he's reading, this is a quote, him and Jamie have a way of making women and some men feel like shit. Do you see that? And Baldoni says, I see that. And then Gottlieb continues, and she says, and he's reading this quote, it is deep because they sign the checks. Do you see that? And he says, I do. And by sign the checks, Gottlieb's asking, and by sign the checks, she's referring to Wayfarer Studios paying for people's compensation on the film It Ends With Us, right? And Baldoni says, I can assume I'm not on this text chain. Gottlieb says, who did sign the checks? And Baldoni says, not myself. Did Wayfair Studios
You don't do shit. You just fucking curl up and cry about everything.
Did Wayfair Studios pay for people's salaries compensation on the ends on the film It Ends With Us? And he said, I would imagine so. And you, as the director and co-studio head, had the authority to hire, fire, remove, and discipline people on the set if you chose to do so? And he said yes. And then you see a reference at 3:05 p.m. in this text thread, Miss Sachs saying, and he's reading, this is a quote, "Do you remember when I called Andy Davis a few weeks in and was like, Andy, he's inviting the department heads to go to the Russian baths with him?" Do you see that? Baldoni says yes.
This fucking guy, dude. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Gottlieb asks, who is Andy Davis? And Baldoni says, I believe Andy Davis he might be the head of production at Sony Studios.
So the head of production is saying Baldoni is inviting people to bathhouses.
Do you remember when I called Andy Davis a few weeks in and was like, Andy, he's inviting the department heads to go to the Russian baths with him? It's what Miss Sachs says. Okay. Baldoni says, I believe Andy he might be the head of production at Sony Studios, the person in charge of production at Sony. Gottlieb says, all right. And on the next page, Miss Sachs says, and he's reading, this is a quote, I was like, what do we do? He was like, you have to tell him he can't do that. Everybody has something weird, uncomfortable, and bad to say. Gottlieb's like, do you see that? And Baldoni's like, yes. I see Ange says that. Yes.
Ange said that.
No, yeah, wait, he's got it wrong.
Oh, it's not Ange, it's Sachs?
Sachs says that, yeah. Okay. Oh, he's correcting the attorney, I guess. So Baldoni is saying, I see that Ange says that. He said that it was Miss Sachs, but it's Miss Giannetti that says, I was like, what do I do? He was like, you have to tell him he can't do that. Everybody has something weird, uncomfortable, and bad to say.
This is the shit show that Ange Giannetti was referring to.
Okay, so Gottlieb continues. He says, Ange said that, so he's correcting himself. And then the next thing is, everybody has something weird, uncomfortable, and bad to say. So that's what he said. Okay. Did Miss Sachs tell you that you weren't allowed to take people to Russian baths? I just can't believe this question. Baldoni says, no, she didn't. Did anyone tell you? He said, no, she didn't. Again. Gottlieb says, did Miss Giannetti ever tell you that many people had something weird or uncomfortable or bad to say about what was happening on the film? And Baldoni said, no, she didn't. Did anyone? Baldoni said, not until I read about them like this.
You know why? Because you were the boss.
Because you're the boss and you're also a giant.
That's why you have to be aware of what you're doing. Because you're the fucking boss. Because there is no one policing you. That's why it's a problem. Have to be the guy policing you. And you're not capable.
Gottlieb asks, are you troubled reading this now? And Baldoni says, what do you mean by troubled? Gottlieb says, what would you have done if you had been handed this text chain on June 15th, 2024 between Alex Sachs was the producer of the film, right? He said yes. And Ange Giannetti was and Baldoni says, executive in charge. Executive in charge? And Baldoni says, for Sony. Gottlieb says, for Sony. So if you had known on June 15th, 2024, that in Miss Giannetti's view, that everyone has something weird, uncomfortable, and bad to say about what was happening on your set, what would you have done? And Baldoni says, on June 15th, the movie was already finished. And I believe anything that's referenced in this text exchange, if I'm not mistaken, either happened before the movie began as it relates to what you said about Christy Hall, or in pre-production. But I could be wrong. Gottlieb says, what would you have done, recognizing that on June 15th, 2024, if you had seen that? If you had seen this? And Baldoni says, I can't speculate to what I would have done on June 15th because I didn't see it. Gottlieb says, would it have changed anything about what you did after June 15th, 2024? And Baldoni says, I can't answer that.
You know, what's so funny is Deanne saying, actually, Austin says, wait. I'm so uncomfortable. I was sexually uncomfortable in a spa, but then I invited everyone to a spa.
Yeah.
Like here he's this guy who's like living with this trauma.
Yeah, he had a traumatizing experience.
Of this guy putting his genitals just inches away from Baldoni's face and trying to insist that he get out of his swimsuit. And here he is trying to get everybody into a fucking spa and isn't thinking that might be an uncomfortable situation. I got invited to a spa by a boss.
By a boss?
By a partner who had the majority and was like financing the whole gig.
I mean, I guess it's normal for some people, but
It was uncomfortable. I went because I didn't want to, because he was my cash flow. So I was like, let's go. He was married, he had 5 kids. He was a Hasidic Jew or a Orthodox Jew, or I'm not sure how to refer to him, but he had the long curly, thing with the beard down to his belly and that whole thing. And yeah, I mean, he was a cool guy. His name is Randy. And he took me to he was like, yeah, I do the spa or whatever.
Did you go?
Yeah, I did. Because I said I didn't want to, like, he was the guy with the money flow. I'd be like, that's weird for me. I don't want to do that. The point that I'm trying to make is that I did it under duress, or under pressure at least.
Yeah, when you're the boss, you should know better than to do this sort of stuff.
And it was fucking weird, bro, because we went to a Korean bathhouse. And, within 15 minutes of me walking in the door, the guy that I knew to be basically my boss, the guy who was financing everything, the guy who owned 75%, I owned 25%. He was the fucking, the guy who just got paid $30 million for his previous company. So he had a history that I wanted to attach my fucking wagon to. Mm-hmm. 15 minutes after we get to the thing, I see this fucking dude sitting on a upside down whatever stool, butt naked, pouring water over his head and beard. And I'm like standing there going, I guess I'm showing him my genitals today.
What do you mean?
Hey, Randy. And then, there I am pouring buckets of water over my naked body next to my boss. And it was fucking awkward.
I can't believe it. That's horrible.
Yeah, dude. And I went because I was like, I didn't know, like if I say no, I want to be on his good side and blah, blah, blah. He's keeping the money flowing.
This is one of the things that I remember hearing older people talk about that is one of the benefits of getting older, about like what you're more comfortable saying no to, like what you won't.
Oh yeah, now
with.
I'd be like, go wash your own balls, buddy.
Exactly.
I'm busy.
It's amazing the kind of things that you'll put up with when you're younger. This is the main reason why I'm always very suspicious of men who want to date much younger women, because I'm like, oh, okay, you're still trying to get them in that space where they don't know how to say no to stuff that they're uncomfortable with.
You want a massage? You look like you need a massage. The old like high school massage. I think she needs a massage.
Where's my hug?
Where's my hug? Anyway, it's a fucking odd and terrible thing to do, in my opinion. And yeah, I think Deanne's point is so fucking perfect. Here he is testifying to a sexual assault or sexual harassment charge, ostensibly, and
yeah. I mean, I was uncomfortable with Gottlieb's questioning about that, but I knew there was a reason. It's going to keep coming up. Okay. I also think that this is very clever. You were in the chat, so you skipped over, or you missed this.
Okay.
But he said if you had known about that text message on June 15th in 2024,
right,
which was just a few months before the premiere, before he engaged Crisis PR, would it have changed anything about what you did after June 15th, 2024? Because here is a bunch of producers who are saying that everybody has something bad to say.
Yeah.
That everybody is being made, that so many people, it just keeps coming and coming.
And it's Sony.
So it's not just Blake Lively.
Right. It's Sony. Mm-hmm. It's not even.
It's the crew.
It's not even like any kind of something you can bring, like something you can attribute to Blake Lively. In fact, Angie Giannetti, by her own testimony, did not like her.
Yes, I know, but listen, my point is that if Justin Baldoni got so hurt that the crew and the cast didn't want to walk with him at the premiere, he thought that it was Blake Lively that turned everybody against him. But here's a text message thread where these producers are talking about how many people have a fucking problem with him. So maybe it might have changed how he felt about how he was being ostracized by the cast and crew. He might have recognized that it was something that he did and not something that Blake Lively did.
Yeah.
Okay. Would it have changed anything about what you did after June 15th, 2024? And Baldoni says, I can't answer that. And I'm with him on that because it's a hypothetical. But, I mean, it's just food for thought, Okay, Gottlieb says, who is Russell? Do you see a reference to Russell at 3:07 p.m.? Baldoni says, I do. Who is Russell? Baldoni says, Russell was our production designer. Do you see that Miss Sachs says, and Gottlieb is reading, this is a quote, Russell said when he rapped, he felt like he left a cult. Do you see that? And he says, I do. Do you find that offensive? And Baldoni says, it wouldn't be the first time people around this case have said I was in a cult. Gottlieb says, I think you testified earlier about meetings with Miss Lively that occurred in her apartment. Is that right? He said, yes.
So if the fucking organization isn't a cult, then what are you? Maybe it's you. Like if it's not the organization, it's not Baha'i faith.
Yeah.
Then maybe it's you. Now, listen, I told you,
I just would be
Baha'i
mortified.
show up and it ends with lawsuits.
Yeah.
and they post like that creepy glazed over look kind of fucking post, where it's like, Justin Baldoni is a saint. He is like the wind and he is like the sky. Like, it is weird. It is fucking weird. It's just totally detached.
Okay. I think you testified earlier about meetings with Miss Lively that occurred in her apartment. Is that right? He said yes. Is that the first place that you met with Miss Lively? He said the first place, it was in the same building, yes. He says, the question, in the same apartment building? And Baldoni says, in the building. And he's trying to clarify. Different room, but same building? And Baldoni says, different apartment. And Gottlieb says, different apartment, same building? He says, yes. Okay.
Why?
I don't know. When was that meeting, the first meeting? And Baldoni says, sometime in December before Christmas. Sorry, I think it was December 22nd. And when you first met with Miss Lively, she had not yet agreed to play the role of Lily in the film. Is that right? He said yes. And you had not yet decided whether you were sure if you wanted her to play the role of Lily in the film, right? And he says, correct. You thought you did, though, right? And Baldoni says, I thought I did what? And Gottlieb says, when you went to that meeting, traveled to the meeting, you prepared for the meeting, and you discussed the meeting in advance with certain people? He said, yes, to all of those. Gottlieb says, like Mr. Heath? Baldoni says, yes. And others? And the witness nods his head. Question. And is it fair to say that you were hopeful that you and Miss Lively would reach an understanding that she would play the role of Lily in the film? He says, yes. And at that point in time, you had made the decision that along with directing the film, you would play the co-lead role in the film? He said, yes. Is that the role of Ryle? Baldoni says, yes. And before I asked you if you were a producer and you said, no, you're an executive producer. Is that right? He said, yes. Okay. And Baldoni continues, I was, but eventually I wasn't. You were for some period of time? And he said, yes. Okay. Gottlieb says, in that first meeting, along with other topics, you and Miss Lively discussed your families. Is that right? And he said, yes. And at the time, Miss Lively was pregnant? And Baldoni says, very pregnant, yes. She was soon to give birth? And he said, yes. Gottlieb asks, and that would not be the first time. Miss Lively had children already, right? And he said, Baldoni said, yes, they were all over the apartment.
She could have...
All
like
over.
She could make a feature film of birthing videos.
And they were all over the apartment.
Feature-length birthing videos.
Like up there.
Just dangling from the... Ah!
Yeah.
Getting fucking sticky fingers on everything.
And Miss Lively was pregnant with a boy, is that right? He said yes.
Boy.
And the two of you discussed certain things about Miss Lively's baby?
Well, I thought she said that they didn't even know the gender, but okay.
Yeah, I don't know. And the two of you discussed certain things about Miss Lively's baby, and Baldoni says, unborn baby, yes.
Yeah, like it's junk. You were up in that.
Gottlieb says, among other things, you discussed whether Miss Lively's baby would be circumcised, right?
Can we talk about your new child's penis for a second, if you're comfortable with that?
And Baldoni says, that was a conversation, yes.
Come on, what the fuck,
Gottlieb
bro?
said, and in the context of that conversation, did you at any point share with Miss Lively whether you were circumcised? And Baldoni said, yes. Did Miss Lively ask you?
It's already bad enough, right? You're already talking about her son, her unborn son's penis. And, you know, like, if you're real close with somebody, then, you know, I get it. I can get it. But
no,
you're just...
If you're really close to somebody...
I got invited to Artie Rob's child's bris. We had a conversation.
Yeah, but...
Because I didn't know what a bris was at first. I was like, is this something we eat? Like, I didn't know what's going on. He was like, not quite, actually. Well, there'll be food, he said, but let me tell you. So there are contexts. Contextually, there are opportunities for that to be a conversation. But he just met this fucking person.
I know. This question, did Miss Lively ask you whether you were circumcised? And Baldoni says, directly, no.
Directly, no.
He
just kept looking down. She just kept looking down. She was looking down. I caught her looking down once.
He thought she asked him in a roundabout way?
If only I knew somebody who was circumcised that they could help me maybe make this very important decision. If only somebody that I knew was circumcised. You are?
Did Miss Lively ask you whether you were circumcised? Directly, no.
Not directly, no.
What does that mean?
Is that what he said?
His next question is, who was present at the moment when you relayed to Miss Lively that you were circumcised? And Baldoni says, there were people going all around. Mr. Reynolds was in and out of the conversation.
I'm going to get a t-shirt saying I'm cut. I'm just going to get a t-shirt that says I'm cut. That's it.
Just so everybody knows.
Just so everybody knows, we can have a conversation.
There were people going all around. Mr. Reynolds was in and out of the conversation. She had, I think, 2 nannies. I felt like there was a housekeeper there. Her assistant was walking around. I think she had 2 assistants there. Her and I were sitting on the couch, and there was people all around. Question. Have you ever told any other work colleague at any point in time about your genitals? And Baldoni says, I don't think about my genitals, so no.
You're a porn addict. They're on your mind. Lacey says the baby ended up a boy. She did not know at the time when he said that whether or not it was going to be a boy. So, and that would be, to me, that's even more important because then, because if it's a boy, then, the first thing, but at least it makes sense because it's on the table. It shouldn't be, but it is.
Unbelievable.
But that they don't, if they didn't even know the gender of the child, and he's like, well, if it's a boy, there's a 50-50 chance that what I'm saying is relevant. Like,
when I hear about a baby, the very first thing I think about is their genitals.
First thing.
The very first thing.
What
the fuck is the matter with him?
What the fucking is wrong with you, dude?
Okay.
That you were talking about a child, an unborn child's penis, and then comparing it to yours.
Unbelievable. Okay. Gottlieb's next question. Prior to Miss Lively accepting the role of Lily Bloom, she received a copy of the script. Is that right? He said yes. And you did not write that script. Is that correct? And Baldoni says correct. I developed it with Christy Hall. Christy Hall was the screenwriter? And Baldoni says yes. Okay, do you recall when that script was sent to Miss Lively? And Baldoni says, I assume before the meeting. Do you know whether the script that Miss Lively received before the meeting and prior to when she accepted the role of Lily Bloom was the same script that was used once you started shooting? And Baldoni said, it certainly was not.
That's a big fucking deal.
Very damning.
It's a very big deal. That is a very big deal. Now, I don't know how, it's a big deal on the set. And it goes to him running a shit show.
The reason why I say
But I don't know how much that will help to a jury.
Well, the reason why I say that it's damning is because he seems very, very, very uncomfortable with her having any issues with the script and the screenplay that he is writing. When she didn't approve of it, she didn't sign on to the project with that script. He pulled a fucking switcheroo. You know how everybody's sharing that whole that very, very small, very short, very extracted from the middle of her answer from the Forbes interview, where she's saying that she would sign on to be an actor, and then some of the directors or some of the producers would feel like there was a rug pull. Do you remember when Blake Lively?
Yeah, she didn't quite say it like that.
She didn't say it like that, but that's what everybody wanted to share that was extracted from her actual answer.
Yeah.
Well, listen to what Justin Baldoni is admitting that he did. I mean, how is that not a fucking rug pull? She signed on to be to work on this one script, and he did a bunch of revisions so that what she actually ended up working on, he said, was it certainly was not the same script that was used once he started shooting.
And it's a very interesting thing because, and by the way, look. You get the actor involved. You have to get the actor involved in those revisions in terms of it depends on the situation and who you are. Like if you're Woody Allen, if you're, Kenneth Lonergan, if you're genius writer, right?
Yeah, he's not the screenwriter.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
He's not the fucking screenwriter. And so that he's doing the rewrites is also problematic, particular to the kind of rewrites that he was doing.
Yeah.
Like if he was just doing rewrites and she was seeing it and it's just improving scenes or not.
But he seems so annoyed that she would have a problem with the script that he revised after she had approved a different script. Shauna
Cole is here and she's saying, so why do the film? She would have been able to back out of it if she was that uncomfortable that early. Well, I don't think that she was so uncomfortable. I think that that was like a warning sign, I don't think she saw that as get out of my house situation. I think it was just what the fuck?
She's also working. He is a successful director. She probably had seen the movie that he made before, and he's capable director. She also knows that she's working with Sony Studios.
Well, she's also working with she has a huge back end deal because they negotiated a massive back end deal for her.
She's in a starring role. That doesn't come around every day for her.
She's in a back. Yes, it does. She's in a back end deal. Yes, she's in a back end deal.
I don't know in her IMDb whether she has so many starring roles. Where she's the lead.
She's literally a green light.
Yes, I know.
So you have to have a history of it.
How many other times was she?
Let's not argue about it. She wasn't in a situation to back out because she didn't need to back out because she was uncomfortable by it. It's again I think most people who are looking at this case and who are angry at Blake Lively because they think that her claims are so shallow are if you take individual claims like, would would it be appropriate for her to quit the movie over him saying, trying to have a discussion about whether or not circumcision is a good or a bad thing for her unborn child? I don't know if that's quit movie material unless he was really gross about it.
He's also the guy that he presents himself to be on the Man Enough podcast too.
Right.
He's like, he does
like overshare.
Well, he does talk about taboo subjects, but he's very careful and he's cautious and he supports women. Right? She didn't know how he was like to work with at this point because she's only just having meetings with him.
Yeah. So look, the bottom line is that like it's not unusual. It's not. I shouldn't say. Yeah, it's not unusual that she stuck around at all. And again, it was like it's all about the compounding effect of all of these offenses as they compounded. By the time that she was trying to get out of the movie, if you recall, there was a moment when she tried to get out of the movie, right? Well, where she said, "Hey, bro, if you want to get somebody else for this movie, go ahead, but I'm not gonna star in your fucking little porno movie," right? And so that's a big distinction because now we're at the point where he's like talking about his now she see the thing is like you write that off if nothing else happens. You write it off quickly. You're like, oh, he had this weird inappropriate moment or potentially uncomfortable moment, right? But when you look at it retrospectively, you're like innocent because everything afterwards was congruent with and consistent with somebody who is cool, somebody who is kind, somebody who is centered and morally sound and all these other things, right? Instead, the compounding problem was that he would continuously be inappropriate and say more and more and more inappropriate things or do more and more inappropriate things. And when you look again at those things individually, you might individually say, oh, please, and roll your eyes. But if you're just sitting there being harassed, and this is why it goes to what the CRD calls a toxic workplace, or a hostile work environment. And the reason it's hostile is because if you're sitting there being bombarded with, I got to hug this guy every day, twice a day. I got to hear about his genitals, or I got to hear about him, or I got to watch a birthing video, or I got to watch these guys being fucking clowns when I'm trying. They're not getting the days. So it's just this compounding shit that makes her, that made her, finally reach a breaking point. And then also, it's not isolated to her own experiences, right? Because she sees it happen to Jenny Slate. She knows what happened to Alex Sachs, or at least some of the things that happened to Alex Sachs. So there's a bigger, more depth to the thing. And just to finish up with this person before they go, they said, but leaving voice notes, talking to him as a friend. Come on, man. First of all, it was before anything happened. She's using the term obviously loosely because they only just met.
February of 2023.
You've never done that before? I mean, that's just common shit, bro.
In February of 2023, we don't have any evidence of anybody from either side from February 2023. That is so early in pre-production.
It's literally at
Nobody's
the very
doing any
beginning.
work.
They're being... and listen, the one thing that Justin Baldoni said that is true and that everyone would agree with in Hollywood is that when two actors are going to do a role together, they're in this sort of expedited process of getting to know each other. They're in this, they've got to get to know each other and have the kind of chemistry that they can burn on screen and be believable. And so part of what you're seeing there or what you're hearing then when she says from a friend is similar to Baldoni, but, let's just put it this way. The way she approaches trying to become friends quickly, she says things like from a friend. The way he does it is, I have a cut penis. No, I mean, literally, he just said that, right? So he literally just said, we were just trying to get close, so I'm just trying to tell her things.
And I spoke to your dead father.
And I spoke to your fucking dead father.
Yeah.
It's funny that you want to, pull out that and be like, aha, got you, look. She said, as a friend. Yeah. He's fucking pulling out cut penises, normal. And, she's acting fucking normal. That's just normal.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Next question. Did you have an understanding prior to the start of production whether the issue of nudity or sex scenes was important in any respect to Miss Lively? And Baldoni's asking for a repetition. Did you have any understanding prior to the start of production whether the issue of nudity or sex scenes was important in any respect to Miss Lively? And Baldoni says, I knew that Miss Lively felt that the movie needed to be very sexy. But outside of that, can you repeat the question one more time? I want to make sure I answer it correctly. And so Gottlieb does. Baldoni says, prior to the start of production, not... Okay. Prior to the start of principal photography, yes. Gottlieb says, okay. And in fact, I think you know that Miss Lively had a series of conditions or principles in negotiating her offer that related to nudity or sex scenes. And Baldoni says, do you know that? And Baldoni is asking, are you referring to the nudity writer? Gottlieb says, Do you know anything about what Miss Lively negotiated into her agreement prior to signing onto the role of Lily Bloom in the film related to sex scenes or nudity? And Baldoni says, I'm aware of specific demands or requests as it relates to a document in, I believe, November, but that was after we had started filming. Are you meaning before principal photography began? And Gottlieb says, do you recall Mr. Heath ever sending you, in December of 2022, changes that Miss Lively had made to her agreement relating to the role of Lily Bloom in It Ends With Us? He says, no. All right. So as you sit here today, you don't have a recollection one way or the other of whether Miss Lively negotiated or otherwise insisted on certain conditions relating to nudity or sex scenes in the film? And Baldoni says, in December of 2022, I don't recall. Okay. We're going to mark Exhibit 23. Exhibit 23, Mr. Baldoni, please take a look through. And while you're looking through the record, I will note that Exhibit 23 is a document, and he's talking about the Bates number, catalog number, which is an email exchange with an attachment. Once you've had a chance to look, I will ask you some questions about it. So he takes a minute. Gottlieb says, an Exhibit 23 is an email and attachment that Mr. Heath sent to you on December 23rd, 2022. Is that correct? And Baldoni says, Exhibit 23 looks like an email from Lindsay Strasberg. Gottlieb said, do you see at the very top of the page, sir? And he said, oh, yes. And do you see how it has a subject that says, in quotes, forward, Blake Lively, It Ends With Us, role of Lily? Baldoni says, yes. And that forward at the top of the page is something that Mr. Heath, Baldoni cuts him off, says, I got it, I understand now, yes. Okay, question. So this is a document that Mr. Heath sent to you on December 23rd, 2022, and Baldoni says apparently yes. Okay. And Mr. Heath has forwarded you the markup of the agreement from Miss Lively's team relating to the role of Lily Bloom in It Ends With Us. He says yes. Okay. And in that markup, a few things. Do you notice how on the page, and he's orienting him to it, which is page 2 of the agreement, there is a section that is titled Approvals. Do you see that? And Baldoni says, sorry, where is it again? He said it's on page 2 of the markup agreement. They're finding out where it is. There's a section that says travel, and right underneath that travel, you see approvals. He says yes. And you see that it says in the marked up version, and he's reading, this is a quote from the document, artists will have mutual approval rights over the following. And then there's a subpoint A about hair, and then there's a subpoint B that's been edited to simply say the screenplay. Do you see that? He says yes. And so it was important to Miss Lively in this agreement, at least as it's being expressed here on December 23rd in 2022, that she would have mutual approval rights over the screenplay. Do you see that? And Baldoni says, I see what I believe is the first round of markups and negotiations from Miss Lively's side. Because I also see, Baldoni continues, because I also see it says, in quotes, produced by credit on screen. So to me, it looks like this was the first round of everything. It's like the wish list of everything that her team would want. Gottlieb says, okay, and do you have an understanding of whether Miss Lively's ultimate agreement with Wayfair included mutual approval rights over the screenplay? And Baldoni says, I imagine it would. Gottlieb says, then on the next page, you see a number of items under miscellaneous, and this is on page 3 of the markup agreement. Do you see how Miss Lively's team has written here in a subpoint A, and he's reading this quote, no use of the artist's name, voice, or likeness in merchandise. And then other things there without prior written consent. And Baldoni says yes. Does that seem like a fairly standard provision that goes into these kinds of agreements? And Baldoni says, I would imagine so. This is interesting because they tried to create merch on It Ends With Us, and they had to stop it. Okay. In your experience, and is that a fairly standard provision that an actor would ask for? And Baldoni says, I can't speculate. I'm not an expert on contracts. Gottlieb says, something that would be important to you in one of your agreements? And Baldoni says, no use of artist's name, voice, or likeness in merchandising without my consent. And Gottlieb said yes, and Baldoni said yes. Okay.
It's standard.
Gottlieb says...
For fucking people with brands, it is.
Yeah, you see subsection D, approval of press releases and statements. Baldoni says yes. Is that something that would also be important to you in a film you were co-leading? And Baldoni says, I'm not sure I've ever asked for that or thought that I could have that, but again, I can't speculate.
What is it?
It is, you see subsection D, approval of press releases and statements.
Yeah.
For the marketing.
It's not going to be for the whole movie. That's just going to be for her.
Yeah.
With anything that has her likeness on it. So it's basically the whole movie because she's the star.
Yeah. But Baldoni says, I'm not sure I have ever asked for that or thought that I could have that. But again, I can't speculate. And also, do you have the final contract by chance? And Gottlieb says, I'm asking you about this document right now, sir. And he says, okay. Do you see how in subsection E it's written in, and he reads this. This is a quote. No nudity / simulated sex without artist's prior written consent and negotiation / execution of a nudity writer. Do you see that? And Baldoni says, very standard, yes. That's very standard? And Baldoni says, yes. Okay.
Obviously.
And you understood.
Hey, triple penetration today. What? Yeah. You didn't get the memo?
Well, you signed onto the project. So
anyway, don't worry. We got your favorite lube. I asked your trainer.
And you understand Miss Lively to be asking for that as of December 23rd, 2022. And Baldoni says, looking at this document, I understand that to be being asked for it by her team, along with all of the other things that were asked for here in red. Gottlieb says, okay, let's do that, please. This is Exhibit 24. It's thankfully a short one. Mr. Baldoni, you've been handed what's marked as Exhibit 24, which is a document, that's the catalog number. This is an email from Alex Sachs to yourself, Jamie Heath, and Ange Giannetti with copies to others on March 28th, 2023. So that that's in pre-production. Subject line, sex scenes / nudity meeting. Have you had a chance to look at this? And Baldoni says, this I have, yes. Okay. It's helpful.
It's like the third thing. Like he's been asked to look at
He doesn't
2 dozen documents. He's like, nope, never seen it. I saw it but never read it. I've heard about it but never really.
Someone inferred something.
Oh, so this does exist. And then this is like the third time where he was like, and I just love that he was like, a win.
Okay, so Gottlieb says, so Miss Sachs writes, and this is an email Miss Sachs sent to you, Jamie Heath, and Ange Giannetti on March 28th, 2023. Miss Sachs says, and he's reading this quote, can the 4 of us hop on to discuss the above in regard to Blake specifically in the next couple days? Is that right? And Baldoni says yes. And the above is the subject line, sex scene / nudity meeting. And Baldoni says yes. Do you understand what Miss Sachs was referring to or talking about in this email to you? And Baldoni says, I don't. Do you have any idea whether any such discussion happened around March 28th, 2023? And Baldoni says, I remember that there were many conversations trying to have these conversations. I don't remember specifically when it happened. Okay. Do you have a recollection of a conversation about sex scenes or nudity happening at some point towards the end of March, start of April 2023? And Baldoni says, I remember a few conversations, yes. Okay, do you remember a few conversations with Miss Sachs, Miss Giannetti, and any of the other people referenced here in this email? He says yes. Gottlieb's like, okay, this is what I'm trying to fucking ask you about. Okay, were those meetings that you recall, and as you sit here today, in person, on the phone, on the phone, Zoom, what do you recall? And Baldoni says, I don't recall. I know we were in pre-production, so I think by this point we were in the office, so some may have been in person, some may have been on Zoom. Gottlieb says, okay, you earlier testified about an initial meeting you had with Miss Lively in December of 2022. This is now the end of March 2023. Have you been working on edits to the script in between December of 2022 and March of 2023? And Baldoni says, yes, per Sony's direction. Gottlieb says, how many different drafts of the script would you estimate that you had gone through between the end of December 2022 and this point in March of 2023? He said, I have no idea. If we wanted to know the answer to that question, would there be an answer contained in digital form in any program or software that you all used for managing changes to a script? And Baldoni says, I'm not a technical expert in Final Draft. I imagine it would also be in when I gave my laptop and phone and everything to the data people for this lawsuit. Gottlieb says, what program did you use for writing and making edits to the script? And Baldoni says, Final Draft.
Garbage, by the way, if you ask me, but
really,
it's the standard in the industry. I used to own it, but I don't know.
You don't like it?
No.
Gottlieb says, Final Draft. And in that program, did you ever have occasion to go back and look at prior drafts to compare kind of where you were and where you'd been? And Baldoni says, I believe so. Yeah, I had to learn Final Draft. And do you recall in Final Draft there being a function for notes and ways of indicating where changes had been made? And Baldoni said yes. Question, how, to the best of your recollection as you sit here today, how do you know, looking at a script in Final Draft, where changes had been made from the last draft?
You click on track changes.
Yeah, and Baldoni says you would have, I think, the option to, like, as you type something in, it keeps what was there before, and I think it puts, like, a strike through it.
It does.
Gottlieb asks, there were stars on the side? And Baldoni says, there were stars on the side when it gets exported in the final, like the final export.
Yeah, but it basically, yes.
Gottlieb starts to ask, wherever you send out to, and then Baldoni continues, yeah, because you wouldn't want it to have the strikes because that would be confusing. It would be too much dialogue. Gottlieb says, okay, when you edit a script in this program and then you send it out for other people to review, the way that I would know if I were reviewing your new draft where changes had been made is that there would be stars on the side. And Baldoni says, correct. Okay. Let's take a look.
It just sucks that these guys don't know anything about what they're talking about because it takes up a bunch of the record, and it's he's nowhere.
Yeah,
he's nowhere.
I know. I'm sorry, it's tedious, but I want to get it.
It is. Yeah, you got to do it.
Okay. Okay. Let's take a look at one example of that, and this will be Exhibit 25. And Mr. Baldoni, I'm going to say I'm going to say this now before handing this to you because this is a script of the entire movie. I am not. And Baldoni cuts him off. You don't want me to read the whole script. And Gottlieb says, I'm not asking you to do a table read. And
that wouldn't
Baldoni
be a table read, Gottlieb.
There you go.
It wouldn't be a table read.
No. A
table read has all the actors, you fool. It's trying to be like in the business.
So Exhibit 25 is a document bearing this Bates number. And am I right, Mr. Baldoni, that this is a version of the script that has been sent from someone to you on or about April 10th, 2023? Baldoni says it appears so. What's the, in quotes, official clean white production draft? And Baldoni says I think white is the first color that you would have when you start to prep a movie. And Gottlieb says, okay. And do you know who sent this to you from the production office? And Baldoni says, whoever was handling distribution. Okay. So this is April 10th. Do you have an estimate or any recollection at all as you sit here today of how many different drafts the script had gone through from December 22nd from December of 22 until this point in April of 2023? And Baldoni said official drafts? I don't believe any official drafts. Gottlieb says any drafts that had been saved on the system as a new draft. And Baldoni says I couldn't estimate. Is it fair to say that you were tinkering with the script often during that period of time? And Baldoni says, tinkering wouldn't be the word I use. And Gottlieb said, revising? And Baldoni says, I was revising, sure. You were making edits, and I think you said earlier in conjunction with Sony? And Baldoni said, in conjunction with the producers and also the writer, Christy Hall. Okay. I want to direct your attention to page 47 of the script, which is a page marked with the Bates catalog number. On page 47, I believe that we were in scene 39, and there's a description at the bottom of the page of a bedroom scene. Do you see where I am? And Baldoni says yes. And do you see in that description of a bedroom scene a description of a sex scene between the characters Ryle and Lily? And Baldoni says yes. And what part of the movie is this? And Baldoni says this is the beginning of their romance, I believe. This is right as they are falling in love on screen. Gottlieb says, did you write the words that appear from the bolded bedroom to the end of the page where you have an italicized, and he's reading this quote, these two newly formed lovers, then italicized, become one.
Oh, God.
Baldoni says, I don't believe I did. Who do you believe wrote that? And Baldoni says, I believe those were Christy Hall's words. And he says, all 3 paragraphs? And Baldoni says, I'm sure that I adjusted some words. This, to me, my memory of it is this was written and feels like Christy Hall's writing.
Sorry, Christy, but...
Question. Do you know one way or the other, as you sit here today, whether this description of a bedroom scene between Lily and Ryle was in the script that was sent to Miss Lively on December of 2022? And Baldoni says, my recollection is that many of the intimate scenes were worked on since that first draft that Miss Lively had. There you have it, folks.
Yeah, he didn't.
He added a bunch. Okay.
He didn't play by the rules.
Many of the intimate scenes were worked on since that first draft that Miss Lively had. Okay, question. So that would be no with respect to this scene. And Baldoni says, I don't know specifically this scene if it was in the script or not. Question. So your recollection is that many of the intimate scenes were worked on since the first draft was sent to Miss Lively in 2022, but you're not certain whether this is one of those scenes? And Baldoni says, no, I believe I was answering your question about whether this scene was in the initial script or not. Gottlieb says, okay. And Baldoni says, that's all. So yes or no, was it? And Baldoni says, that's what I said, is I don't know if it was in the initial script. Gottlieb says, okay, but then in response to it, you also said, my recollection is that many of the intimate scenes were worked on since the first draft that Miss Lively had. Baldoni says, correct. So you're saying that many of the intimate scenes that were in the script that Miss Lively saw in December of 2022 were scenes that you were working on in between December of 2022 and April of 2023? And he said, correct. Okay.
Should we, how much is left?
A lot?
Yeah, but let's go to chat when, find a spot to stop.
Yeah, I'll just wait till he's done with his questioning. Okay, were you working on those scenes with Miss Lively at the time? And Baldoni says, no, I wasn't. Okay, were you working on them with Miss Hall? Baldoni says, Miss Hall, Alex Sachs, Andrew Kaloff, Ange Giannetti, Jamie Heath. Question. If you turn one page to page 49, you see scene 42, Boston Grace Hospital, hallway neurosurgery floor. You see that? He said, uh-huh.
Dirty doctor.
And this is it. And do you see a discussion of a scene at the hospital when Lily comes to see Ryle? He says, yes. And there's an exchange there in dialogue where Lily says, and he's reading, hello there, doctor. And Ryle says, hey, I didn't expect to see you today. And Lily, in parentheses, coy, sexy, says, yeah, well, I think I need a physical. Maybe you can help me out.
Oh, my God.
Do you see that? He says, yes.
That's so porn.
Did you write that? And Baldoni says, I did not.
Who wrote that?
Gottlieb says, who wrote that? Baldoni says, this was specifically an idea that Christy Hall had when we were meeting together over 2 days in my office at Wayfair. Question, did you think it was a good idea? And Baldoni says, I think I did at the time. That's probably why it's in the script. Did you ever change your mind about that? And Baldoni says, change my mind about putting it in the script or that it was a good idea? And Gottlieb says, that it was a good idea. And Baldoni says, I'm not sure. I don't believe Miss Lively liked it. And so then we took it out. Is there anyone else who didn't like it?
It's so bad.
And Baldoni says, I don't recall. I feel like it made the script because people liked it in there. Liked it that were I was collaborating with. Sorry, he misspoke. Okay. Question. What did you like about this? And Baldoni's like, about the scene? And Gottlieb says, about the dialogue. And Baldoni says this. Oh, well, I can't comment on the dialogue. The dialogue is, much of the dialogue like this is always a work in progress. Until an actress says it out loud, you don't know if it works. But to answer your question specifically, there was a request from...
Not my dialogue, motherfucker.
That's right. But to answer your question specifically, there was a request from Sony to add more sexy to the movie, and we were constantly looking for ways to do it that also fit into the budget because we had location constraints, time constraints. We could only be in certain places at certain times. As I remember, this specific instance was a little bit of a tail wagging the dog because we were having to pay a lot of money to rent out a hospital, and there weren't enough scenes to shoot in the hospital. And so as producers do, and as a director does, we are trying to figure out how to give the co-studio the notes that they want, which are, as an example, adding a sexy scene to help their relationship, and also the budget constraints of having enough to shoot in a hospital. So when you put those two things together, I believe Christy had an idea of like, oh, maybe there is like, maybe she should play doctor, And as I often did, she's a woman. She's a brilliant writer. I'm not going to argue with her of what is sexy or not, because I wanted this to be from that gaze anyways. So I thought it was perfectly fine. I will only also add that we were also constantly going back to the book to figure out how to adapt it in a way that made Ryle and Lily's relationship more sexual and Atlas's and Lily's relationship more romantic, because we wanted them to be two very different situations. So there was a lot more talk about making sure there was more Ryle and Lily, because in the book there is by the time they get together, there's a lot more sexual interaction between the two. And we just didn't have nearly enough in the movie. Question. Is there a scene in the book that involves Ryle and Lily playing doctor in the hospital and then having sex in an exam room? And Baldoni says no. Question. And I think your testimony was it was a good idea to add this because it made good use of the amount that the studio was paying to the hospital for production. And Baldoni says, I don't believe that was my testimony. Gottlieb asks, would adding a sex scene not in the book be considered gratuitous? And Baldoni says, no, because none of the sex scenes that were in the movie as they currently exist were ever in the book in the way that they are. Okay.
Yeah, but they were adapted. There's a difference between adapting the sex scene that's in the book to the screenplay
Yes.
than there is from writing a sex scene out of thin air.
I am going to stop here because he's going to continue asking about different scenes in the book. So he's just going to, in the script. So he's going to...
Let's hit the chat.
Yeah.
What's up, chat? I think all the Baldoni fans left because they don't like me. They're like, man, that guy,
Are you sad? You sad by that?
No. We are the company we keep. And I see who they cheer for, so I'm good.
It is so cold over here. I have this like big, I have these big velvet curtains, and they usually do a really good job of insulating. But oh my god, it is so cold here.
So this Sean says.
It's all snowy.
Sean says she was playing him from the start. Shauna says she was
playing
playing him from the start.
Oh, yeah?
She was texting him nice texts and same day talking crap about him behind his back from the start.
They were
like how many people? What world are you living in, Shauna? Where people don't talk nice to people that they just met? Where people are cordial to people, even if they don't like them, or they're suspect. They suspect whether or not the person is, has a decent personality. Like, come on, man, why are you exempting Blake Lively from the common human experience? That's just ridiculous. Of course, they were both cordial to each other, and as she got to know him, I think that somebody pointed out for me that Lyman called it in the hearing 1,000 paper cuts. It's just, it's
death
just
by 1,000
one
cuts,
death by 1,000 cuts. It's just one paper cut after another from these guys, and in particular Justin Baldoni, that sort of set things off. But for her being nice to him is, I mean, come on, man, that's just so silly, Shauna.
Deanne said that womb world equals a Baha'i set.
Yeah, womb world equals a Baha'i set. What the fuck is that shit? Womb world? Get the fuck out of here.
Hey, man. It's a pretty mysterious thing, the question, the grand question of where were we before we were here, and where do we go after we're not here anymore? Like, I get that people have weird answers to that because it's a unsolvable mystery. All the
lady folk think about are genitals, says the junk farm. It's just the only thing on their mind, They're like, hello, Mr. Genital. I'm sorry.
Deanne said, for some reason, quoting Jordan Peterson, says, guys like him are never going to change because they have no remorse, empathy, or awareness. They deliberately do what they want regardless of how others feel or the consequences. Somebody
said, I didn't catch it, who it was, and it's up there in the chat, but I did read that somebody said something about Harvey Weinstein had said something like if he had the looks of Justin Baldoni, he wouldn't be in jail. It just goes to show you, like, this is how important it is that man stays in jail.
I know.
That's how important it is that he stays in jail. He thinks he's in jail because he's ugly.
Yeah. You think that things would have gone differently?
Unsightly.
Oh my God.
How do you talk about people who aren't pretty and not sound like an insensitive jerk-off?
How do you talk about Harvey Weinstein? You can call him an ogre. You can do that. I think that's fine.
Yeah. It's body shaming, right?
No, it's not. I don't think that it counts when you're talking about somebody who is a serial violent attacker.
Harvey Weinstein, that's why he's in jail and needs to stay in jail, because he's literally thinking that what he did, the horrible things he did, he doesn't think they were wrong.
Yeah.
He thinks he was entitled to them.
That he only didn't get away with it because he's ugly.
Which, by the way, is in itself an admission. Mm-hmm. It's in itself an admission because he's saying, I wouldn't have had to. Well, I just wouldn't have had to.
Yeah.
What he's trying to say is like they would have wanted him too.
Horrible. Let's see.
Ugh, that's so bad. Harvey Weinstein, bro. It's so weird that I met like a bunch of people who like got accused. Like I met David Blaine. I met Harvey Weinstein. I knew Danny Masterson. Kevin Connolly was credibly accused.
It's a little sus, Dale.
It's weird how many people.
It's weird that you know. I'm kidding.
Hey, listen, I'm not friends with any of them.
A scientist said, as a cringe millennial woman, I feel qualified to say that Taylor Swift would agree that being your friend's dragon is fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's true. I was just wondering because I was like, obviously Taylor Swift is, she's secure in who she is, I guess.
Oh, M. Serrata said that Taylor's a big Game of Thrones fan. She has used dragons in her lyrics and music videos.
Yeah, so everybody's a Game of Thrones fan. Ain't they?
Yep. This is true. Austin wants to know, wait, when did you get Patreon?
Oh, yeah, we just got the we announced it yesterday.
We found an astrology electional date. It was an auspicious date for starting something.
Look, I started Patreon because I turned the super chats off because you guys were being so generous.
Yeah,
I mean, it was
really sweet.
crazy how much money you guys were throwing at us. And it was like, oh my God, if this continued, we could get an editor. But the problem was that they took almost 70% of it between Apple, Google, and the taxes.
Yeah, it's not fair.
So we ended up with like a very, very small amount of money. And I was like, well, that sucks. And also, like, you guys are sitting there giving this money, and which
that's
is
definitely not
your
the intention.
hard-earned money, and
Yeah,
you're sitting
for sure.
there like believing that we're at least getting the majority of them or not. So that was the biggest problem I had with it. And even though it's much more inconvenient for people to use Patreon, and therefore that means we're probably not going to make nearly as much as we would with a super chat situation, I still feel more comfortable about it because I'd rather, 80% or 90% of your money going to the cause of producing the show rather than, lining the pockets of multi-trillion-dollar companies, if you catch my drift. So we went to Patreon, but what's exciting about it is that it's really inspiring for me to create additional content, and in particular content surrounding writing, because it's something I've just wanting to do for a very long time. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to rewrite Too Real, a Hollywood memoir. I'm going to do a second edition. And the reason I chose to do this is because, like, if I can't do it with a book that, like, a new novel, like, I can't teach with that because I don't want you guys to know what I'm writing. I want to publish that and not have people know.
That's a very
And
good
then I was
point.
like, I would like to work with other people's material, but they don't want people to know their material. And so it's just like the best way to teach is to work with existing material, and the best existing material to work on is, material I know that could use work. Well, it turns out that I published this book it was probably one draft sooner than I wanted to, but I'd been working on it for 4 years. I had a date picked. The book was reading fabulously, even if I felt like I could trim another, 10 pages out and maybe add a scene or two. And so, and literally at the time I was like, well, I'm going to do a second edition for that. And so the time is nigh. So I'm going to be streaming every day. As soon as my keyboard gets here, I'm going to be streaming all day long my writing session. And in that, there'll be like moments of learning. And then also I'll be recording, because I'm going to be reading it all live. I'll be recording an audio version of the book. And I call it an audio version because we're still holding out hope that we're going to be able to put a full cast in and do a high production audio book. But until then, I would like to be able to cater to those people who are either incapable of reading for whatever reason, disability or otherwise, or who just prefer an audiobook because it fits better into their lifestyle. So I'm working towards that. And I thought, well, I could just make this a great opportunity to teach, because it's something I want to do. I love teaching. I taught at the University of Georgia.
You're really good at it too.
I'm good at it. We'll have a good time. It'll be inspiring work. So if you're a writer, or you want to be a writer, or you're thinking about writing, or you know somebody who does, because you can gift these memberships, send them over to our Patreon. The link is in the description of the show, and send them over, man, or buy them. It's $1 a month. Buy somebody a membership if you want to, if they're writers and that you think, because I'm telling you, once I get cooking on that, it's going to be a badass writing, community. It's going to be a badass writing community because I'm super passionate about it, and I'm also talented at it. So it'll be fun.
Here's a question from the chat I think is interesting.
Yeah,
Austin is saying, do we know if Justin and Jamie are still friends?
they are.
Like, because of everything that Jamie kind of concealed from Justin, it's funny because they tried to make such a big deal about Blake and Taylor.
Dude, Justin Baldoni is saying
they're
that
saying it
he's
might
cool
be
with Jen
projection.
Abel.
Yeah, I know. He's never going to break up with any of his friends.
He chooses who can be mean to him and who can be mad to him.
Yeah.
Bad to him.
Jamie Heath also does so much, like,
Stroking.
emotional labor is what I was going to say, to, like, help Justin feel safe.
I think Justin would prefer stroking. The word stroking.
Stacy says, I'm not buying for a minute that Justin Baldoni did not know 90% of all the stuff he's denying ever hearing about.
Come on.
He knew. He doubled down. He is way too egotistical to correct. That's why he retaliated. It is interesting because he does rely on his team to tell him stuff.
Yeah.
But it might also be that people think that he's fragile and annoying.
Bobo's leaving.
So
Good night, Bobo.
They would withhold stuff from him too.
Yeah. I love Bobo. Good night, Bobo. Hope everything's cool up in Canada, bro.
Yeah.
We got some snow down in Georgia. Remind me of home. Hey, look what I'm wearing today, Bobo, before you go. Let's go,
We
baby.
hit. Hinata said that Katie Case's summary of a meeting with Wayfarer, Alex, young Atlas don't want to go near Baldoni, and Sklenar was pissed Baldoni was misrepresenting his complaints and didn't want to go near him. I thought that I had read a lot of Justin Baldoni's depositions already because there were little morsels that were released, and I am surprised how much is being revealed.
It's a chunk.
Yeah.
It's a business.
Like I didn't read any of the stuff about the screenplay yet. So that's what we're going to go and do. Are we coming back tomorrow?
Well, tomorrow's the Grammys. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about like what would happen if we went live watching the Grammys, where we're watching the Grammys, and you guys can like watch the Grammys from where you are, and we just talk shit.
Like live stream the Grammys?
Yeah, well, we can't live stream the Grammys.
I don't think I want to do that. But
So,
I was
I probably
wondering
don't either.
If from 6 to, because the Grammys are at 8
I think we should probably take a day off.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll take a day off.
So we'll be back on Monday with
Hopefully the conclusion.
It probably won't be, babe. This is really long.
I know I'm doing a lot of talking, but it's no fun without the commentary.
I agree with you.
I have to be able to react anyway. I'm very dramatic in that way.
No, you have to. It's nobody wants to just hear me like read and then you just sit there. The junk firm said, "Well, I think that's Baldoni too. You were talking about Weinstein. He's used to women falling all over him. He doesn't consider consent because he just thinks they all do."
Yeah, I do believe, and I think that I speculate that Justin Baldoni thought that Blake Lively would fall for him. I think he thought that she would find him utterly irresistible.
Can you imagine?
Like I think he had in his mind, like, she's coming at me with the whipping cream.
Because, he took that picture that's on your thumbnail today. Like, that's a picture he took.
He took that picture. Yeah, if you go look at that thumbnail,
so
you can see this dude, like, what he thinks of himself. I've never taken a picture that he loves himself. He spends some time just looking at his beauty. And look, he's a good-looking guy. I mean, if he for some at least. Some people think so.
Hinata says, Deanne is replying to Hinata, said he definitely was writing into the script what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, the intimacy coordinator cut him down. That is why the notes he made say no oral sex and only side boob.
Right.
Oh, God.
Right, exactly, because he was given guidance.
Deanne said, boom, chicka, wow, wow, cue porn soundtrack.
Exactly. I mean, he wanted to turn it into Chained Heat. No, he did Rivalry. We only saw the one episode. Oh, no, 2 episodes. Did we watch 2 episodes? 3 episodes.
SC has a question about your Patreon.
Yes.
Why would I sign up for the crew membership when the writer's room has more content at the same cost? Is participating a prerequisite?
No. Participate. I'm not even going to be looking at comments while I write. I'm just going to be teaching.
Okay.
I'm literally not going to look at comments because I'm going to be in my head. I need to get the work done.
But then you get into the comments
So
later.
Here's what's happening is that the writer's room is a place where the reason I created the writer's room separately is because I'm going to stream my writing sessions, and that's where you go watch the streaming sessions. When they're done, I'm going to be editing an audio version of the book, and that's what's going to be available for the crew. So the answer is and by the way, you can choose both if you've got $2 a month. If we're worth $2 a month to you, you can do both. You can be a part of the crew. Or you can be a part of the writer's room. But I just thought, like, I didn't want to, the crew is just just purely supporting and being a part of To Real Life. The writer's room is about wanting to be a part of the writing process and a part of the educational component that I want to try to include in my online work. Because I really feel like I can offer something helpful, and I just want to keep it super accessible. You know what I mean? But out of that, by the way, that content I'm going to be repurposing into some of that content. I'm going to be repurposing into the writer's channel which is called Dale's Writer's Room on YouTube, which I've set up and I haven't officially launched yet. So, yeah. So you can either, you can support us by going both, or just pick the one that you think is going to be most valuable to you. You're not going to miss any content out The only person who's the crew is not going to get the long live streaming sessions access unless the crew starts asking for them, and then I'll just fold it all into one. But I thought they should be separate. Maybe I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'll just fold it all into one in the end.
Shall we?
Thank you for asking those questions.
Everybody was being so great in the chat. Very informative.
Somebody said, Deanne said, I double looked. I thought it was Russell Brand. Russell Brand. A keynote speaker for Turning Point USA.
Yeah, of course.
Russell Brand, the keynote speaker for Turning Point. You know, the religious organization, the Christian organization, where they're trying to crowd heaven, which I'm not sure if that means that they're going to kill everybody that they recruit. If they're trying to crowd heaven.
If they're trying to crowd heaven, that definitely sounds really
She's on
dangerous.
the Make Heaven Crowded tour.
You guys don't want to be in that room. You don't want to go on that tour, you guys.
Inspired by the death of her husband.
That sounds very dangerous.
Did you see the video of her fucking laughing and squealing days after he was murdered?
It was 11 days after.
11 days after he was cold-blooded murdered.
She was elated about how profitable the whole funeral had been.
Laughing. Laughing. Enjoying her life, laughing. 11 days after
something's the matter with
guy,
that lady.
How old was he? 30-something?
I don't know.
Murdered in cold blood?
Something's the matter with that lady. That's for sure.
Phoebe said that this is a joke fest. Well, welcome to the joke fest.
Welcome to the joke fest.
We're not going to go to Saudi Arabia, but we are going to stay here locally on YouTube, and you're welcome to join us anytime for the joke fest. We call it Too Real Live, also called Joke Fest for you. Thanks for coming by, Phoebe. I hope your life is good to you. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and dogs.
Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
Have the best, have the best rest of your weekend. If you're watching the Grammys, we are too, I think.
Hey, yeah.
Might as well, right? Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, the Grammys inspire me more. Like award shows or whatever.
Well, there's a lot
but they inspire me more than like the Oscars or whatever.
A lot of musicians that I treasure have passed away this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a bad one.
Last year. And so they're going to do a
Bob
bunch
Weir.
of
God.
They're going to do a bunch of tributes that I don't want to miss.
Thank God Dolly Parton's still going. That was close.
Like Roberta Flack.
Oh.
And D'Angelo.
Oh, D'Angelo, bro.
And
there's a great documentary you watched on him.
Sly Stone. And
my God.
If they're going to do anything, I want to watch.
We're definitely watching. You guys are absolutely lovely. And I can't wait to see you again. I believe that will be on Monday at 6 p.m. on the East Coast. I hope the rest of your weekend is filled with joy and that the wind meets you only on your back. Have a great night. Good night.